Chapter 263. After a long time, the millions of experts recovered from the shock. They looked at Lin Yi with scorching eyes. Envy. Worship. This was the respect from the bottom of the hearts of countless celestial realm experts. At this moment, no one dared to say Lin Yi was trash, and no one dared to talk about Lin Yi because no one had the right to do so. Even Tian Yi, one of the top 10 geniuses in Heaven City, was defeated with one sword move. Who else could be Lin Yi's opponent? Tian Yi was defeated, and he was defeated so easily. One sword move, just one sword move. One sword move, and heaven and earth were destroyed. I really didn't expect that a celestial realm with the cultivation of 3 flowers at one's prominence could defeat Tian Yi. If his cultivation reached the Transcendence golden body, he wouldn't be able to kill a half-saint. Now, no one dares to challenge him. I didn't expect Brother Lin to be so heaven-defying. When he was in the Cloud Sky Kingdom, he didn't even use his full strength. The discussion was boiling. Lin Yi became the focus of all the expert. He defeated Tian Yi, which was beyond everyone's expectations. Moreover, he defeated him with one sword move. This was a real instant defeat. They were all curious. Was this Lin Yi's most powerful move? If that wasn't the case, then how strong was Lin Yi? Could he really fight with a half-saint? No matter what, Lin Yi was now ranked among the top 10 geniuses by countless experts. For a moment, the third-rank families and forces in Heaven City began to inquire about Lin Yi's identity and background, wanting to pull Lin Yi into their own forces. As for the fourth-rank forces and families, they all knew that they couldn't compete with the third-rank forces. They knew that Lin Yi was such a monster. Even if they had to choose, they wouldn't choose the fourth-rank families and forces. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me? Lin Yi stood in the center of the fighting ring. He glanced around and said faintly. His voice was like a dragon's roar, resounding through the 9 heavens. It reached the ears of all the experts. After a long time, no one answered. The square was silent. Challenge Lin Yi? Who would dare? Saints naturally would not challenge Lin Yi, nor were they qualified to challenge Lin Yi. That was because the laws of the Empire restricted experts above the half-saint realm from attacking warriors below the celestial realm. Apart from a semi-sage, he couldn't think of anyone else who would dare to challenge Lin Yi. Even if there were, they would be experts ranked in the top 100 of the celestial roll or top geniuses from other heaven cities. Today the challenge ends, Lord Yun Xing announced loudly. Although his tone was calm, it was extremely domineering. Everyone knew that at this moment, even if another monster like Tian Yi came to challenge Lin Yi, Lord Cloud Sage would not allow it. This was a disguised form of favoring Lin Yi. One had to know that although Lin Yi was monstrously powerful, he was still a genius. However, his background was very weak. He was only a genius from the Cloud Sky Kingdom. With such a background, any family or power that was slightly stronger would dare to bully him. Hearing Cloud Saint's announcement, Lin Yi walked down from the fighting stage and walked up to Dishi Yu and the others. Greetings, Senior Dishi. Lin Yi bowed and saluted. No matter what, it was Dishi Yu who brought him here from the Cloud Sky Kingdom. Not bad, not bad. It's beyond my expectation. Come to the Dishi family when you have time. Dishi Yu nodded with satisfaction with a smile on his face. Today, Lin Yi had helped him vent his anger. He had slapped Gongsun Nanyang's face because of Lin Yi. Now that Lin Yi was so monstrous, he also benefited from Lin Yi because he brought Lin Yi here from the Cloud Sky Kingdom. Okay, I will visit Senior Dishi tomorrow. Lin Yi answered politely. Then he greeted Lai Tenyu and the third prince. The other young men of the Dishi family also greeted Lin Yi and introduced each other. Birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather flock together. Lin Yi was one of those monstrous geniuses. He was on the same level as the top 10 monstrous geniuses of Sky City and stood at the peak of the younger generation. To be able to get closer to Lin Yi, no matter what, there were only benefits. After exchanging greetings, Lin Yi said goodbye. He left the North City Square with Silent Soul and walked towards the relay station. Young master, how did you cultivate your domain so quickly? On the way, Silent Soul held Lin Ye's arm. She was very curious and asked Lin Yi about his domain. She knew Lin Ye's strength well. Lin Ye's domain was only 107 rays 2 days ago, but now it had doubled, reaching 211 rays in just 2 days. His sword domain was also dozens of times stronger. After we go back, you will know. Lin Yi showed a mysterious smile. Silent Soul was one of his people, so he naturally had to nurture her. Now that he had accepted all the challenges, he believed that no one would disturb him. Using these 3 months to cultivate his domain, Silent Soul also needed to improve her domain and strength. Okay. Silent Soul gently nodded. The two of them disappeared from the sight of countless experts. After returning to the relay station, Lin Yi let Silent Soul enter the ninefold space. Didn't you want to know how my domain improved so quickly? You will know when you try. After entering the ninefold space, Lin Yi said to Silent Soul. As he spoke, he pointed in front of him. Solitary Spirit looked in the direction that Lin Yi was pointing at. Immediately, her beautiful face revealed an expression of shock and disbelief. For a moment, she was completely stunned and was in shock. What is this? Why is there such a big tree? She woke up from her shock. Silent Soul rubbed her eyes. When she came in, she didn't pay attention and didn't notice the Chaos Sacred Tree. Now that she saw the Chaos Sacred Tree, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. This is called the Chaos Sacred Tree. It has a magical effect. After Lin Yi gave a simple explanation, he let Silent Soul cultivate under the Chaos Sacred Tree and let her feel the magical effect of the Chaos Sacred Tree. After that, his figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already back in the room. Luo Bin. After leaving the room, Lin Yi shouted from the pavilion. Gongzi Lin. What are your orders? Luo Bin saw that Lin Yi was calling him and was instantly excited. Although he didn't go to the North City Plaza to see Lin Yi accept the challenge, what happened in the North City Plaza quickly spread to the relay station. He naturally knew about Lin Ye's performance in the North City Plaza. In his heart, he admired Lin Yi very much. If someone comes to visit, tell them that I'm cultivating in seclusion and won't see anyone, Lin Yi ordered. He naturally knew that his actions in the North City Plaza had attracted the attention of countless families and forces. These families and forces would definitely send someone to invite him. However, he didn't want to get involved with the families and forces in Sky City. No matter who he agreed to, he would offend the other forces and expert. Rather than that, he might as well not see anyone, using seclusion as an excuse to reject all visitors. Don't worry, Gongzi Lin. No one dares to disturb you at the relay station, Luo Bin replied respectfully. Chapter 264. After arranging everything, Lin Yi called out Qingming Liuli. He asked Qingming Liuli to guard the room. He had thought it through. Qingming Liuli would usually cultivate under the chaotic divine tree, but when he entered the ninefold space to cultivate, Qingming Liuli would have to guard him outside. Qingming Liuli had 4 forms in each stage: germination, scattering leaves, blooming, and fruiting. Now it was in the first stage of fruiting. Every vine was comparable to the peak of the celestial realm. If the 9 vines attacked together, even a half-saint might not be able to withstand it. Qingming Liuli guarded the room. Lin Yi entered the ninefold space. Without wasting any time, he walked directly to the chaotic divine tree. He could cultivate here for half a month. Half a month in the ninefold space was only half a day outside. He sat cross-legged under the chaotic divine tree. He began to cultivate the gold and sword territories. Tianyang Empire, Imperial Palace. This was the center of power of the entire Tianyang Empire, where the Tianyang Emperor lived. The entire Tianyang city was built around the imperial palace. The imperial palace was an ancient palace left behind from ancient times. It could be said that the imperial palace itself was an unparalleled treasure and wealth. In the Tianyang Empire, every emperor could not be in power for more than 500 years. Moreover, only when one's cultivation reached a certain level could he ascend the throne. The emperor symbolized the entire Tianyang Empire. Shen Yunlian was the current emperor of Tianyang. He was once a legendary figure in the Tianyang Empire. He started martial arts at the age of 3. He reached the celestial realm at the age of 20. He was like a half-saint at the age of 30. He became a saint at the age of 50. He suppressed an era. 100 years ago, Shen Yunlian ascended the throne as the emperor of the Tianyang Empire. He was the first emperor in the history of the Tianyang Empire to ascend the throne before the age of 100. Sitting on the throne of the emperor, Shen Yunlian trained his elite troop. He pushed the Tianyang Empire to a new level. The majestic imperial palace. In the Tianyang palace, Shen Yunlian leaned on the throne and listened to the people below. At this moment, there was only Shen Yunlian and a saint in the palace. This saint was the one in charge of the 5 battle platforms, Lord Cloud Saint. Emperor, this is the situation. That Lin Yi is indeed from the kingdom of Yuntian. All the information has to be verified. 10 jade slips floated in front of Cloud Saint. Every jade slip exuded a mysterious sealing aura. Obviously, these jade slips could only be unsealed with a unique method. If one tried to forcefully unseal them, the jade slips would turn into dust, and it would be impossible to know the information within the jade slips. The Sky Sea Realm, the holy land of martial arts in ancient times. If not for the Sky Sea Realm, there wouldn't be the current divine continent. It seems that this little fellow's origin is not simple. Shen Yunlian sat up straight. He muttered to himself for a long time before opening his mouth to speak. His wise and far-sighted eyes looked out of the grand hall as though he wanted to see the Sky Sea Realm through space. Moments later, he retracted his gaze. A trace of curiosity and expectation appeared on his face. Great Emperor, what should we do? Cloud Saint had another identity. That was the Grand Tutor of the Great Emperor. He used to teach the Great Emperor cultivation. He had watched the Great Emperor grow up and knew the Great Emperor's personality. Needless to say, the Great Emperor valued this young man. I'll leave it to you. I can't control it. However, I can't go down the wrong path and stop when it's appropriate. When he returns from the ruins of Disya, I will betroth Qing to him. Speaking of Qing Shen Yunlian's lips curled into a smile. As the great emperor, he had to work hard for the empire. Ever since he ascended the throne, there was no longer a trace of a smile on his face. Only his precious princess could make him happy. Shen Qingqing, the 19th princess of the Tianyang Empire. She was also the youngest princess of the empire. She was 16 years old this year. Her talent was unparalleled and unmatched. Although she was still young, she was already a beauty. When she grew up, she would definitely cause the downfall of a country and its people. The great emperor wants to betroth the little princess to Lin Yi. This, isn't it a little rash? Grand Tutor Cloud Saint heard Shen Yunlian's words and could not help but be shocked. He looked at Shen Yunlian. However, he realized that Shen Yunlian was not joking. Moreover, the great emperor would not joke around. A great emperor does not joke around. However, Shen Qingqing was the great emperor's most beloved daughter. If there was anyone in the entire empire who could win the great emperor's favor, it would be the little princess, Shen Qingqing. Moreover, Shen Qingqing's talent was unparalleled. Even in Tianyang, she was one of the best. The premise is that he can return alive from the ruins of Disya. Those who enter the ruins of Disya have a slim chance of surviving. Those who can return are all saint. This Lin Ye's talent and luck are unparalleled. If he can return alive from the ruins of Disya, he will definitely become a saint. Shen Yunlian said seriously. He knew that although he was the great emperor, he could not protect Shen Qingqing forever. Moreover, Shen Qingqing would eventually get married. More importantly, he valued Lin Ye's background and future. I understand. Cloud Saint naturally knew what the great emperor was thinking. Give this to him. Shen Yunlian waved his hand in the air. A magical light appeared in the air. As the light fell, a scroll could be seen. The scroll was ancient and mysterious, exuding an ancient aura. However, it looked a little broken. I'll go now. Cloud Saint bowed slightly. After receiving the scroll, he left the Tianyang Hall. I hope I didn't make a mistake. Seeing Cloud Saint leaving the hall, the great Emperor Shen Yunlian muttered to himself. By the time he finished speaking, he had already disappeared. There was not even a trace of fluctuation in space. North City Dishi family. As one of the top 10 third-grade forces in Tianyang Empire, Dishi family's influence was extremely huge. Although it could not be compared to the Tian family, it could still be ranked in the top 5. There were countless subordinate forces and families. Dishi family was located at the edge of North City. It guarded the north of Sky City. Countless palaces and pavilions formed the huge Dishi family. Looking from afar, Dishi family looked like a palace. Indeed, Dishi family was one of the top 10 third-grade families. They were the strongest existence in North City. They could be considered the ruler of North City. In North City, it would not be an exaggeration to say that Dishi family was a palace. It was said that Dishi family's inheritance had existed since 100,000 years ago. In just 10,000 years, they became a third-grade family, a legend in Tianyang Empire. Compared to other third-grade families and forces, Dishi family existed for a short time. However, their strength was not weak at all. The east gate of Dishi family was bustling with people coming and going. On both sides of the gate plaque, there were hundreds of guards patrolling. Each guard was in the celestial realm. This is Dishi family. Why are you here? Lin Yi came to the gate and was stopped by a guard. Chapter 265. I'm Lin Yi. I'm going to visit Senior Dishi Yu. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't argue with these guards. This was their job. Then, he said his name and purpose. Lin Yi. Lin Yi of the Cloud Sky Kingdom? The guard was stunned. He had some impression of this name, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. But soon, he thought of the legendary figure in the square of the North City yesterday. No wonder he was so familiar with this name. It was mainly because he didn't associate this man with that legendary monster. Yes. Lin Yi nodded. Being famous had its advantages. After yesterday's battle, most people in the North City knew Lin Yi. It's young Master Lin. Welcome to the Dishi family, young Master Lin. Please. Seeing Lin Yi admitted himself, the guard became excited. Although Lin Yi came from the Cloud Sky Kingdom, but after yesterday's battle in the square of the North City, he had become the idol of countless gods' favored sons and daughters. Being able to be so close to the person they admired, they were naturally excited. The guard bowed and made a gesture of invitation. After welcoming Lin Yi into the Dishi family, he personally led Lin Yi to the place where Dishi Yu lived. Entering the Dishi family was like entering a big city. Lin Yi understood. Although the Dishi family was only a family, it occupied an area equivalent to a city. If there was no one to lead the way, it was possible to get lost. Soon, the guard led Lin Yi to the Mingting residence where Dishi Yu lived. Young Master Lin. Ahead is where the Lord lives. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. I can only take you here. The guard stopped. Then, he said to Lin Yi. Because this was Dishi Yu's private place. Without permission, outsiders couldn't step in. Since Lin Yi was going to visit Dishi Yu, he could only rely on himself. Thank you. Lin Yi nodded and thanked the guard. The guard didn't expect Lin Yi to be so approachable. Seeing Lin Yi thank him, he was flattered. He hurriedly bowed and left. Junior Lin Yi. Greetings, Senior Dishi. After the guards left, Lin Yi opened his mouth and shouted towards the courtyard. Come in. In the courtyard, Dishi Yu's voice sounded. At the same time, the courtyard door opened, and a 15 or 16-year-old girl appeared in front of Lin Yi. The girl was cute and beautiful, and the first impression she gave Lin Yi was the innocent smile on her face. You must be Brother Lin Yi. My name is Dishi Qingxiu. The young girl spoke, her voice incomparably sweet. Just like lark. Hello, I'm Lin. I'm here to visit Senior Dishi. Lin Yi smiled. This girl was indeed cute and beautiful. She should be Dishi Yu's descendant. Otherwise, she wouldn't live here. Big families had many branches. Children of concubines and children of wives. A big family was like a country. It was made up of countless small families. He's my grandfather. Dishi Qingxiu asked Lin Yi to enter the courtyard. The courtyard was very big, like a small palace. Greetings, Senior Dishi. In the center of the courtyard, there was a pavilion. Dishi Yu was drinking tea inside. Seeing Dishi Yu, Lin Yi hurriedly stepped forward and bowed to Dishi Yu. Sit. Dishi Yu smiled. He was incomparably satisfied with this genius. He brought back from the cloud heavenly country. Just yesterday, Lin Yi brought glory to the cloud heavenly country. Anyone who knew Lin Yi would know that this genius was discovered by Dishi Yu. As the imperial inspector in the Cloud Sky Kingdom, he was naturally happy to find such a monster for the empire. After returning to the family, his status in the family was also very high. Lin Yi bowed slightly and sat in front of Dishi Yu. I didn't expect Senior Dishi's place to be so peaceful. It's suitable for cultivation, Lin Yi said. Although he didn't use his spirit sense to look around, he found that the courtyard was very big. It could accommodate 100 or 200 people. However, it wasn't bustling like a big family. Instead, it was very peaceful. It's too peaceful. It's suitable to leave the Dishi family. It's very lively here. When I came back, this place was already different. Dishi Yu sighed. There was a trace of old age in his tone. It was like he had suffered an irreversible blow. Lin Yi didn't know why Dishi Yu was like this, but he didn't know how to respond. He gently picked up the tea in front of him and tasted it. Soon, Dishi Yu recovered. Today, the great emperor sent an order. The quota to enter the Great Xiao World Ruins has been confirmed. The four kingdoms, the Heavenly Sun Empire, and the Heavenly Jin Empire have a total of 1,519 quotas. The other races have a total of 788 quotas. In other words, there are 2,307 people entering the Great Xiao World Ruins. Dishi Yu said. Until today, the Imperial Palace sent an order. Normally, he wouldn't be able to come into contact with the Great Emperor. However, he was the Imperial Inspector stationed in the Cloud Sky Kingdom. Naturally, he knew about the Great Xiao World Ruins. 2,307. So many. Lin Yi was shocked. He didn't expect that there would be so many people entering the Great Xiao World Ruins. It was twice as many as before. The Cloud Sky Kingdom only had 3 quotas. On the other hand, the other races had hundreds of quotas. The Divination Pavilion has seen the weather. This time, the Great Xiao World Ruins. There might be changes. Dishi Yu's expression was solemn. The higher he went, the further he could see. The more he knew. In this world, humans weren't the strongest. Therefore, knowing too much was also a kind of pressure. Divination Pavilion? Lin Yi was stunned. If he guessed correctly, the Divination Pavilion should be a machine-like existence. In this world where the strong were respected, would they believe in such things? Or was there something special about the Divination Pavilion? The Divination Pavilion is detached from worldly affairs. It's not something you can come into contact with now. You'll know when you become a saint. Dishi Yu only knew about the Divination Pavilion after becoming a saint. Now, of course, he wouldn't allow Lin Yi to know too much. It wouldn't be good for Lin Yi. Moreover, the divination pavilion wouldn't let anyone below the saint level know about the divination pavilion. Senior, have you been to the Great Xiao World ruins? Lin Yi asked curiously. Logically speaking, Dishi, you should have been there. After all, those who could become a saint were all peerless geniuses. Yes. The Great Xiao World ruins are, in the eyes of the Heavenly Purification Territory's experts. That's the place of becoming a saint. Of all the geniuses who come out alive from the Great Xiao World ruins, 80% can become a saint. Of course, there are exceptions who die before becoming a saint. However, only those who have really been there will understand the horror inside. Inside, 9 out of 10 is not enough to describe how terrifying it is. Dishi, you had entered the Great Xiao World ruins 100 years ago. That time, he had almost died inside. He was lucky to have come out alive. Inside, there was a horror that ordinary people couldn't imagine. Every minute, every second, there was the possibility of dying. There was danger waiting for you at all times. Senior, can you tell me about the situation inside? Lin Yi watched Dishi Yu's expression change. Chapter 266. The time limit of the Great Xiao World ruins is 3 years. After 3 years, if you can't find the space-time node to return to, you will stay there forever. Those who stay there will be wiped out in an instant. Therefore, you must leave the Great Xiao World ruins within 3 years. Dishi Yu's face was solemn as he spoke seriously. This was the most important thing. If you forgot the time of exit, you would die in vain. Since you will die in there, then how do the people outside know? Lin Yi was curious. Could it be that someone saw someone being wiped out after 3 years? If that was the case, the people outside shouldn't know. Then you will know how terrifying it is. However, I hope you don't see that scene. Because there were many people who found the space-time node at the last moment of the 3 years and saw with their own eyes the experts who came from afar being wiped out. Dishi Yu shook his head. He didn't want to see that scene. If he saw it, he would die. Is there no fixed space-time node in the Great Xiao World ruins? Lin Yi was stunned. Although he didn't know the situation, he could imagine it. It was like using a random teleportation talisman. Before teleporting, he saw the destructive attack of a powerful enemy crushing down. If he was a second late, he would disappear. In the Great Xiao World ruins, it wasn't the experts that killed humans, but the invisible killing. Yes. But it's too big inside. You just have to be careful. Although it's dangerous inside, there are also countless opportunities waiting for you. Opportunities and dangers coexist. Moreover, it's an excellent opportunity to train. Dishi Yu spoke for a while and then stopped. He didn't intend to talk about the Great Xiao World ruins anymore. Sometimes, knowing too much wasn't a good thing. Everyone had their own path. If they were too prepared outside, they might end up trapped instead. Then, the two chatted for a while before Lin Yi left the Dishi family and returned to the relay station. After returning to the relay station, Lin Yi began to cultivate in seclusion. The time to enter the Great Xiao World ruins was getting closer and closer. He wasn't familiar with Sky City and could use this time to improve his strength. Inside the 9-layer space, Lin Yi mainly cultivated the gold domain and the sword domain. There was also the second style of the Heavenly Sword 12 styles. Of course, he couldn't give up on the Starry Sky Divine Art and other Saint-tier martial skills. The time inside was 32 times longer than outside. There were still more than 2 months before he would enter the Grand Xiao World ruins. In total, he could cultivate there for more than 5 years. Just thinking about it made him excited. In the first year, Lin Ye's metal domain reached 936. In the second year, Lin Ye's sword domain reached 601. In the third year, he successfully cultivated the second style of the Heavenly Sword 12 styles. The second style, Sword Qi traversing 30,000 li. In the fourth year, the Heavenly Emperor Fist reached the 4th level. The peak of the 3rd level of the Heaven-Destroying Finger. peak of the third layer of freezing sky aurora. In the 5th year, his cultivation had reached the heaven tier, and he had refined 1/3 of the divine sword godly physique that he had obtained from the auction house. Now, he had reached 2/3 of the divine sword godly physique. 2/3 of the celestial sword divine constitution was comparable to a peak saintly constitution. On this day, Lin Yi left the ninefold space and returned to his room. 5 years passed. In the outside world, only 2 months had passed. There were only a few days left before the Grand Xia world ruins. To the people in the outside world, a few days wasn't a long time. But to Lin Yi, a few days was a few months. In a few months, he could raise his domain to a very high level. However, when he was cultivating, he communicated with the green darkness glaze through his divine will. Someone had come. He had just come out of the ninefold space. Young Master Lin. Lord Yunxing is here. Luo Bin's voice reached Lin Ye's ears. Got it, Lin Yi replied. Then, he opened the door and walked out of the pavilion. He saw Luo Bin at the bottom of the pavilion, and there was another person beside him. Lin Yi recognized that this person was Lord Yunxing, who had hosted the challenge at the North City Plaza. He didn't expect Lord Yunxing to come to the relay station personally. It seemed that he was here specifically to look for him. Seeing Lord Yunxing, Lin Yi didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly came down from the pavilion. Greetings, Lord Yunxing. Lin Yi bowed slightly and saluted. A saint. How could he not be respectful? You may dispense with the formalities. You may leave. Lord Yunxing waved his hand, indicating for Lin Yi to dispense with the formalities. At the same time, he asked Luo Bin to leave. Luo Bin quickly left. He had wanted to leave long ago. Following beside a saint made him feel uneasy. He was like an ant on a hot pan. Although Lord Cloud Saint did not release his saint aura, the formless aura made it hard for him to breathe. Lord Yunxing is here. But the Great Xia World Ruins is about to open. Lin Yi made an inviting gesture. He asked Lord Yunxing to take a seat first. After Lord Yunxing took a seat, he then sat down. Indeed, the others are already in the Imperial Palace. I will bring you to the Imperial Palace to meet with the others. This thing is useful to you. Don't leak it out. After you come out, return it to me. Lord Yunxing stretched out his hand. A ray of light appeared. Within the light was a scroll. It was an ancient and incomplete scroll that gave off an ancient aura. The scroll floated in the air as Lord Yunxing spoke in a neither fast nor slow manner. This is? Lin Yi didn't understand. He didn't know what this scroll was. The incomplete map of the Great Xia World Ruins. 1/5 of the incomplete map. 1/5 of it is in the hands of the Tianjin Empire. 1/5 of it is in the hands of the foreign race. The rest are missing. Of course, this can only be used as a reference. Even if it is a complete map, it might not be able to fully depict the Great Xia World Ruins. Dishiyu said seriously. With that, he waved his hand. The scroll flew towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi's face was filled with excitement. 1/5 of the Great Xia World Ruins scroll, compared to the Cloud Sky Kingdom that relied on the memories of the experts below, it was 1,000,000 times better. After all, it was extremely rare for the Cloud Sky Kingdom to enter the Great Xia World Ruins. Those who could come out were few and far between. It was vast and boundless. How much could one see in 3 years? Hence, the records could be ignored. It was like drawing a small island in the boundless sea. Who knew what the name of the island was and where it was? However, the incomplete map of the Great Xia World Ruins was a map left behind by the Great Xia World Ruins. Although it was only 1/5 of it, it was countless times better than the one in the Cloud Sky Kingdom. He reached out to grab the scroll and carefully kept it in the 9 layers space. Lord Yunxing. Isn't the Empire afraid that the owner of this scroll would die in there and lose the scroll? Lin Yi asked curiously. 1/5 of the scroll was a treasure in the Heavenly Sun Empire. Chapter 267. This isn't the real one. It's a copy of the remnant scroll. Of course, a copy isn't as precious as the real one, but it's still priceless. Especially for a remnant scroll like the remnant map of the Great Xia World ruins, it's basically very difficult to replicate. Its value is almost the same as the real one, Lord Yunxing said with a smile. He knew better than anyone that this copy of the remnant scroll was priceless. In the entire Tianyang Empire, there was only one real scroll and 3 copies. Thank you, Lord Yunxing. Lin Ye's heart couldn't help but skip a beat when he heard that this copy was so precious. One shouldn't take a reward for nothing. Taking someone's money, one must take care of someone else's misfortune. Lord Yunxing gave him such a precious copy of the scroll. He really didn't know what kind of price or condition he had to pay. But he didn't ask first, instead, he bowed and thanked him. This is a gift from the great emperor. Let's see how your domain is doing. Lord Yunxing looked at Lin Yi. Lin Ye's domain surpassed his peers and was comparable to an ordinary sage to be. What he wanted to see the most was the speed at which Lin Ye's domain improved. Because at the end of the cultivation, the domain was the deciding factor, and martial techniques weren't the most important. Yes. Lin Yi didn't think much about it. He stretched out his hand and displayed the gold domain. However, at this time, the gold domain had already condensed from light into light. The light was composed of countless light rays. The stronger the domain, the larger and thicker the condensed light. 400 gold domains. Lord Yunxing looked at Lin Ye's domain. At first, he didn't care. But later, the expression on his face couldn't help but change. In the end, he was surprised. Because Lin Ye's domain had reached 400 gold domains. 400 gold domains were just a drizzle for a saint, but Lin Yi was only in the celestial realm. More importantly, 2 months ago, Lin Ye's domain was only 211 gold domains. Today, 2 months later, it had reached 400 gold domains. This cultivation speed was simply world-shocking. Also, the celestial realm's comprehension and cultivation of the domain was very slow. If one reached the sage-to-be, the cultivation of the domain would be even faster. Lin Yi was already so terrifying now. If he became a half-sage or a sage, how terrifying would he be? Naturally, he didn't know that Lin Yi had more than 400 domains. During his first year in seclusion, he had reached 936 metal domains and 601 sword domains. Subsequently, he did not focus on cultivating his domains for the next 4 years. However, under the Chaos Divine Tree, he was able to cultivate his domains. His domain was also automatically strengthened and sublimated. Currently, he had 1,208 metal domains and 832 sword domains. Lord Cloud Saint, is it done? Lin Yi asked as he withdrew his domain. Not bad. Let's go, follow me to the Imperial Palace. Cloud Saint's heart was in turmoil, but as a saint, he was able to maintain his composure. Outsiders could not see the changes in his heart. Of course, a powerful divine spiritual sorcerer could do that. Then, he led Lin Yi to the Imperial Palace. When Lin Yi arrived at the Imperial Palace, there were already several hundred monstrous experts gathered here. He scanned the area with his divine sense. A total of 758 people, including himself, that would be 759 people. In this way, the Tianyang Empire had one more person than the Tianjin Empire. Seeing these experts, Lin Yi was shocked. The Tianyang Empire was indeed powerful. There were more than 700 people, and every one of them was a monstrous expert. Every one of them was ranked within the top 5,000 of the Heaven's human list. Of course, the few monstrous experts from the affiliated kingdoms were an exception. Among these people, Lin Yi recognized Lai Tenyu and the third prince, Sun Wuyu, as well as one of the top 10 monstrous experts in Sky City, Tian Yi. At this moment, Tian Yi had fully recovered from his injuries. He was curious. With Sun Wuyu and Lai Tenyu's strength, if they were challenged, they would definitely be stripped of their spots. However, they were standing here perfectly fine. Brother Lin. Brother Lin. When Lai Tenyu and Sun Wuyu saw Lin Yi, they greeted him with smiles on their faces. Lin Yi naturally didn't know that the two of them were standing here because of Lin Yi. Because of Lin Ye's strength, some challengers didn't dare to challenge Lai Tenyu and Sun Wuyu. They were worried that Lai Tenyu and Sun Wuyu would be as terrifying as Lin Yi. More importantly, they didn't want to provoke Lin Yi. The three of them were from the Cloudy Sky Kingdom. If others took away Lai Tenyu and Sun Wuyu's spots, Lin Yi would definitely help them get it back. It wasn't worth it to be beaten up by Lin Yi. However, although the two of them were standing here, they were under a lot of pressure. They were looked down upon by the other monstrous expert. When they looked at the two of them, they were like country bumpkins. This made the two of them sullen, but they didn't dare to say anything. When they saw Lin Yi arrive, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. This was because Lin Ye's strength was definitely at the top of the list of monstrous experts in Sky City. The two of you are early. Lin Yi smiled and walked towards the two of them. When he saw Tian Yi, he nodded as a greeting. The two of them were opponents in the fighting ring, but there was no hatred between them. At least, there wasn't any for now. Do you think it's you? There's no need to guess. He must be cultivating. The third prince, Sun Wuyu, walked in front of Lin Yi and said with a smile. To be honest, he didn't have any advantage as a prince in front of Lin Yi. Not to mention the Tianyang Empire, even in the Cloudy Sky Kingdom, he didn't dare to provoke Lin Yi. Whether it was talent or strength, he was inferior to Lin Yi. His starting point was obviously higher than Lin Yi's, but he lost miserably. After leaving the Cloudy Sky Kingdom and coming to Sky City together, Lin Ye's name spread throughout the North City in just a few days. On the other hand, he and Lai Tenyu were constantly worried that other monstrous experts would come to challenge them. In the end, they relied on Lin Ye's reputation to stop the other challengers. Indeed, I almost overdid it. Isn't there still a few days before the Great Xia World ruins? Lin Yi nodded. If Lord Yunxing hadn't looked for him, he might have missed it. There are still a few days before the Great Xia World ruins opens. But we have to go to the entrance of the ruins, Sun Wuyu said. Regarding Lin Ye's way of handling matters, he was truly speechless. Of course, when it came to handling matters, Lin Yi was indeed not as good as His Royal Highness the Third Prince. After all, His Royal Highness the Third Prince was a prince. Being in the palace, he had a lot of advisors around him. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was focused on cultivation. Other than cultivation, he was risking his life. He didn't know how to beat around the bush. Is there any news? Lin Yi asked in a low voice. Yes. Seeing that Lin Yi asked him, the third prince moved and distanced himself from the other monstrous experts. Lai Tenyu followed him and the two of them had been together. At the side, the third prince handed a jade slip to Lin Yi. This jade slip recorded the information that he had gathered. Lin Yi took the jade slip. He used his spiritual force to scan through the information in the jade slip and imprinted it into his mind. The information was very simple. It was a brief introduction of the experts from the Heavenly Sun Kingdom who had entered the Great Xia World ruins. These experts were divided into three groups. The first group was naturally the top 10 monstrous experts in Sky City. The second group had 30 people and was slightly weaker than Tian Yi and the rest. The other monstrous experts were in the third group. Chapter 268. Tian Yi, I heard that you lost to him. You really do bring honor to Heaven City. While Lin Yi was talking to the third prince and the others, a voice sounded. The one who spoke was a young man in black. The young man in black was like a ghost. Those who saw him were in a trance, as if he was just an illusion. It was a very strange feeling. He was the number 1 demon of this generation of the Ming family, one of the top 10 third-rank families in Heaven City. He was also one of the top 10 demon of Heaven City, Ming Yang. Ming Yang, no one will think you're mute if you don't speak. Go ahead and try if you can. Tian Yi's expression was extremely ugly. As one of the top 10 demon of Heaven City, it was already embarrassing for him to be defeated by Lin Yi. He did not expect his old rival to bring this matter up. His words were heart-wrenching, even though he knew that Lin Yi was indeed very strong. He was so strong that even he was no match for him. Hey, I heard that you're very strong. Is that so? Ming Yang's figure strangely crossed space and appeared in front of Lin Yi. His tone was frivolous and disdainful. He even had a contemptuous smile when he spoke. He looked down on the genius experts of the Cloud Sky Kingdom from the bottom of his heart, even though Lin Yi had defeated Tian Yi. However, he still did not believe that Lin Yi was that strong. Whether I'm strong or not, it has nothing to do with you. But, to be honest, you're very retarded. Go back and ask your father. If his body is fine, why don't you consider having another child? Lin Ye's lips curled into a faint smile. He was extremely disgusted with the young man in black. He was not weak, but he was very retarded. He always thought that he was the best in the world. As soon as he finished speaking, the lively scene of hundreds of people quieted down at this moment. However, after a short moment of silence, there was a burst of laughter. The expression on Ming Yang's face was extremely ugly. A murderous aura rose from his body. What kind of commotion is this in the Imperial Palace? Be quiet for this saint. Just as Ming Yang was about to teach Lin Yi a lesson, an unparalleled saint aura came crushing over. The aura was extremely terrifying. The hundreds of geniuses present did not even dare to move a finger. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on them. As the saint aura descended, an elder appeared in front of everyone. Lord Cloud Saint. Lord Cloud Saint. At this moment, all the geniuses and experts bowed. Not daring to make a ruckus, even Ming Yang could only suppress his killing intent. He fiercely glared at Lin Yi, as if he wanted to eat Lin Yi alive. However, Lin Yi's face was calm, as if he didn't care at all. Now that he had entered the Grand Xia World ruins, it would take him 3 years to come out. It would be great if he could become a sage in the Great Xia World ruins. Even if he couldn't become a sage, he could just leave. No matter how powerful the rank 3 families in Heaven City were, they couldn't possibly chase after him. In the ruins, there are not only native experts but also powerful beasts. Aside from the Heavenly Sun Empire, the Heavenly Gene Empire and several other races will also enter the ruins. Your opponents are not your own people, but the Heavenly Sun Empire and other races, as well as the aboriginals and demonic beasts. Lord Cloud Saint appeared. His eyes swept across all the geniuses and experts. He said faintly, "There is an ancient heaven ranking in the ruins. If you can reach the top 100 of the heaven ranking, the Empire will reward you handsomely. If you can reach the top 10 of the heaven ranking, the Empire will confer you the title of king and you will receive a huge amount of cultivation resources from the Empire." A smile appeared on Lord Yunxing's face. The hundreds of geniuses below were excited. But when they heard the last part, they could not help but be curious. "Lord Cloud Saint, what if we reach the top 3? One of the geniuses asked. Generally speaking, there was a huge difference between the top 3 and the top 10. Why did Lord Cloud Saint not mention the top 3? Everyone was curious. If the top 10 could be conferred the title of king, what would happen to the top 3? Haha, top 3? Just think about it. You will understand when the time comes. Moreover, the top 10 of the heaven ranking will receive unimaginable benefit. Show your true strength and fight to come out alive. The Great Xia World ruins is not Sky City. Now, let's start the grouping." Lord Cloud Saint almost laughed out loud. Top 3? What a joke. To be honest, he could not see any of the geniuses in front of him that could reach the top 3. Even the top 10 geniuses in Sky City that he thought highly of would not be able to reach the top 3. There was a problem that he did not mention. The heaven ranking was not limited to the races and humans outside. It also included the natives and beasts. Grouping? Grouping? What grouping? Aren't we randomly sent in? Even if we are grouped, we will be separated immediately. It is impossible to be sent in together. Yeah, we can't cheat if we are grouped. Hearing Lord Cloud Saint's words, everyone was puzzled. Even Lin Yi was curious. Random sending and grouping were useless. Indeed, it is random. However, Sky Sun Empire, Tianjin Empire, and a few other races have a type of spirit-gathering crystal. However, there are not many of them. Sky Eye Empire has 10, Tianjin Empire has 10, and the other races have 6. After entering the ruins, the spirit-gathering crystal will emit a mysterious response. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, those who have a connection with the spirit-gathering crystal will be able to sense the crystal's location. This way, they can quickly gather together. Here, 10 of the crystals will be distributed to 10 of you. As Lord Cloud Saint spoke, he waved his hand. 10 diamond-shaped crystals appeared in front of him. The crystals were the size of a fist and looked magical. After hearing Lord Cloud Saint's explanation, all the geniuses understood immediately. In other words, everyone was divided into 10 groups. Each group could sense the location of the leader within 10,000 miles. This would make it easier for them to gather with the leader. Lord Cloud Saint. Can the leaders sense the location of the other leaders? Can the members sense the location of the other leaders? 10,000 miles is a little short. However, the spirit-gathering crystal is magical. In an instant, the geniuses discussed and asked the questions in their hearts. However, the top 10 geniuses of Sky City wanted to obtain the spirit-gathering crystal and become the leader. The spirit-gathering crystal can sense other spirit-gathering crystals. The members can only sense the spirit-gathering crystal in their leader's hand. Mingyang, Tian-yi, Dishi Shao, Lin-yi, Yunhuang, Murong-nan, Jianyi, Gongsun-yu, Shen-yu, Nangong Wudi, these 10 spirit-gathering crystals are in your hands. Now, you can choose your leader. You can only choose once and cannot change. Lord Cloud Saint threw out the spirit-gathering crystals. They landed in front of the chosen geniuses. Lin Yi also received a spirit-gathering crystal. Chapter 269. The 10 geniuses who had the spirit-gathering crystal were the captains. Lin Yi and the others split up and chose a place. Those who were willing to follow them would choose to stand in a team. In less than half an hour, the grouping had been completed. There were only 30 people who stood on Lin Yi's side. Lai Tenyu and the third prince undoubtedly stood with Lin Yi. There were also 3 geniuses from the Sky Kingdom who chose to follow Lin Yi. Other than that, there were also the geniuses from Sky City. The other captains each had 60 to 70 people with them. The most had 130 people. Lin Yi had the least people with him. Beep beep beep. After standing in a team, under Dishi Yu's signal, each member swiped their ID chip on the spirit-gathering crystal. Suddenly, there was a faint beeping sound. Soon, the spirit-gathering crystal was connected to the member's ID chip. On the ID chip, the position of the captain was displayed. Of course, since the captain had the spirit-gathering crystal, he could also know the position of the members below. However, the prerequisite was that they must be within 10,000 miles. Beyond 10,000 miles, he could not sense them. Moreover, after entering the ancient enchantment, this sense would be cut off. I'm warning you. Captains and members are not allowed to kill each other. The Empire will notice the battle between captains and members. As long as it's a battle between captains and members, the Empire will be able to see the reason. Alright, let's go. Lord Cloud Saint pointed at a huge crystal screen in the Imperial Palace and said with a faint smile on his face. The Empire would not easily check all the actions of the geniuses in the ruins, and they could not do so at will. The Empire could only see the battle between members and captains. The purpose of this was to prevent the captains and members from fighting and killing each other. After speaking, he led all the geniuses out of the Imperial Palace. Outside the Imperial Palace, there was already a huge battleship waiting. A battleship. Yes, a battleship. The battleship was 100 meters long, 50 meters wide, and 10 meters tall. It was divided into 2 levels. The entire battleship was silvery white and exuded a mysterious and terrifying aura. On the battleship there were arrays as the power for attack and defense. Such a battleship could not be destroyed even by a saint. With a full blow, even a saint would vanish. A powerful empire doesn't only have experts. There are also mystical array masters and blacksmiths. They create powerful warships and make great contributions to the empire. The empire's comfort mostly depends on array masters and blacksmiths. In the future, you will come into contact with more and more. Lord Cloud Saint led all the demon beasts into the battleship. The warship was incomparably luxurious. There were rows of seats and many individual rooms. Seeing the battleship, all the freaks were excited. This was the first time even for the geniuses who were born in Heaven City to see a battleship. Because Heaven City was very far from the borders of the Empire, the frontline battle had nothing to do with them. Warships were war resources and weapons of mass destruction. Ordinary people would naturally not be able to see them. With the speed of the warship, it would only take a day to reach the location of the ruins. Therefore, they could only spend the day in their seat. Everyone gathered together. Of course, each team formed a camp. The 30 people that were with Lin Yi naturally followed Lin Yi. However, they were not familiar with each other and did not communicate. On the other hand, the third prince, Sun Wuyu, quickly got along with the others. This made Lin Yi speechless but also relieved. With Sun Wuyu, this small team would not be scattered. Of course, the premise was that they were lucky enough to be able to gather together. Lin Yi closed his eyes and cultivated to pass the time. Time passed by minute by minute. It was not until 10 in the evening that the battleship stopped. Lord Cloud Saint asked all the demon beasts to leave the battleship. Lin Yi and the others walked out of the battleship with a puzzled look on their faces. This was because they did not even see a single person. Could it be that the people from the Tianyang Empire were the first to arrive? Through this teleportation array, you will reach the entrance of the ruins. Lord Cloud Saint walked down with 8 other saints in official robes. Each of them exuded a terrifying saint aura. At first glance, one could tell that they were powerful saints, although they did not see the 8 saints at first. Everyone knew that the 8 saints should have been on the battleship. So we have not reached the entrance. At this moment, everyone came to a realization. They had not reached the entrance of the ruins and were still in a hidden place within the Tianyang Empire. This place was the teleportation array that led to the entrance. There were very few people who knew where it was. Brother Cloud, we will go over first. A middle-aged saint spoke. After speaking, he walked to an altar and activated the teleportation array. The light of teleportation appeared and the middle-aged saint entered the teleportation array. The other saints also entered the array one after another. Soon, the 8 saints were teleported away. Next, the demon beasts were teleported away in batches. Each time, 20 people were teleported. After a quarter of an hour, everyone was teleported away. After Lin Yi passed through the teleportation array, he appeared in a vast wilderness. However, he soon discovered other demon beasts. Remember, don't cause trouble. Lord Cloud Saint's voice rang in the ears of all the demon beasts. At the same time, he led everyone to fly forward. After an hour of flying, a boundless sea appeared in everyone's sight. At the edge of the sea, countless experts were gathered. Each of them exuded a terrifying aura. On the left, there are the people from the Tianyang Empire. On the right, there are the experts from the 9 foreign tribes. Before entering the Great Xia World ruins, try not to cause any trouble to avoid any accidents. Keep a low profile and no one will die. Only those who can come out alive from the Great Xia World ruins are considered expert. Lord Cloud Saint explained as he flew. He repeatedly reminded the Tianyang Empire's experts not to cause any trouble. One should know that those who came here were the most powerful demon beasts in the empire. Every one of them was a top existence among the foreign tribes. Naturally, all of them were extremely arrogant and looked down on others. Once a fight broke out, the situation would be out of control. Another meaning was that these demon beasts were the future of the empire and the foreign tribes. If something were to happen here, it would be strange if the foreign tribes and the empire, or the empire and the empire did not fight. Soon, all the Tianyang Empire's experts came to the seaside. After receiving Lord Cloud Saint's instructions, they were extremely well behaved. They withdrew their aura and sat down cross-legged, waiting for Lord Cloud Saint's arrangement. Needless to say, the Tianyang Empire and the 8 foreign tribes' experts had also received instructions and were quite well behaved. Lin Yi carefully scanned with his divine telekinesis. Chapter 270. With a sweep of his divine will, a familiar figure appeared in his sea of consciousness. Immediately, Lin Yi looked in the direction of the 8 foreign race expert. The woman was peerlessly beautiful and had an otherworldly temperament. She was dressed in a blue dress and had a tall figure. Her long black hair hung down to her waist. She had a beautiful face and jade-like skin. Her slender feet were 3 feet above the ground. She was like a goddess who had cleansed the dust of the 9 heavens. She had an otherworldly temperament that kept people thousands of miles away. However, there was a blood-red lotus mark between her eyebrows, making her look even more bewitching. Bewitching, holy, and cold. They fused together. Lin Yi recognized this woman. She was the eldest senior sister of the Heavenly Sea sect. However, she had gone missing and Lin Yi had never seen her again. He never expected that he would find Nangong Xia among the foreign races when he entered the Grand Xia World ruins. When he looked at Nangong Xia also looked at him. Moreover, Nangong Xia's beautiful face revealed a smile that could topple nations. Obviously, she was smiling at Lin Yi, but she didn't greet him. Lin Yi also wanted to greet her, but thinking about the current situation, it wasn't appropriate. He was curious. Nangong Xia didn't seem surprised by his appearance, as if she knew that he was going to enter the Grand Xia World ruins. There were many questions in Lin Yi's heart. However, he couldn't find a chance to ask Nangong Xia. Circulating his divine will, his state of mind quickly calmed down and he closed his eyes to cultivate. Although there were more than 2,000 peerless geniuses here, he didn't have to worry about them because the Heavenly Sun Empire had 9 saints here. As long as the saints of the Heavenly Gene Empire and the 8 foreign races didn't go crazy, no one would dare to make a move here. Of course, if there really was a battle between saints, he couldn't hide even if he wanted to. Time passed day by day. Above the sea, the water rippled. If one looked carefully, they would see traces of light patterns on the surface of the water. Mysterious runes were faintly discernible. As time passed, more and more light patterns appeared. The runes were getting stronger and clearer. 5 days passed. The entire sea had turned into a sea of domains. The runes were as vast as the sea and mountains, giving off a huge pressure. The monstrous geniuses who were cultivating had already stopped. Looking at the situation in the sea, they were all very excited. This was the prelude to the opening of the Great Xia World ruins. Do it. In the Tianjin Empire, a saint in his 70s said with a scepter in his hand. Then let's do it. A scepter appeared in Lord Yunsheng's hand. The scepter was exactly the same as the one in the hands of the Tianjin Empire's saint. It gave off a mysterious aura. A saint walked out from the 8 great demon clans' side. This saint was at least 10 meters tall. His entire body was filled with destructive power. It was as if he could break the sky with a single punch. The scepter in his hand felt like he was holding a blade of grass. It looked a little comical. However, no one dared to laugh at him. That was a genuine great sage. Every saint had the means to destroy the world. In front of them, celestial realm was just a small ant. The three great sage wielded scepters. His mouth kept chanting the mysterious incantation. The mnemonic chant was mysterious and obscure, making it impossible for anyone to understand. This mnemonic chant and scepter. Only when the two great empires and the 8 great demon clans join forces can they unleash their power. Moreover, they need the permission of the ruler to take effect. Even if others have the scepter and mnemonic chant, they can't open the great Xia world ruins. On the Tianyang Empire's side, a saint explained to the monstrous geniuses of the Tianyang Empire. Boom! Boom! Between heaven and earth, following the mnemonic chant of the three saints, the scepter emitted a mysterious light. This light was not a domain. However, it could form a connection with the Sea of Domains. The Sea of Domains let out a series of roars, like the roars of ancient beasts. It was so loud that it hurt the eardrums. Even the monstrous geniuses of the celestial realm could not bear it. Get ready! Get ready! Get ready! The Tianyang Empire, the Tianjin Empire, and the 8 great demon clans. Seeing that a spatial tunnel had appeared above the Sea of Domains, they ordered the monstrous geniuses below to get ready to enter the spatial tunnel as soon as possible. This was because the longer the spatial tunnel was opened, the more terrifying the consumption. Even the 2 great empires and the 8 great demon clans could not bear such a terrifying consumption. Therefore, they could only let the monstrous geniuses enter as soon as possible to support the spatial tunnel. The consumption per second was an astronomical figure that the celestial realm could not imagine. Enter. It was unknown which saint it was, but he shouted loudly. As his voice fell, countless monstrous geniuses rushed toward the spatial tunnel, fearing that they would not be able to enter the great Xia world ruins if they were late. Lin Yi, Lai Tenyu, and the others did not bother to greet them and quickly flew over. It was less than 1,000 meters away. For these monstrous geniuses of the celestial realm, it took only a breath's time to reach. Lin Yi plunged into the spatial tunnel. The spatial tunnel distorted everything. Any defense or attack was like a decoration. Moreover, after he entered the spatial tunnel, there was no one around. He knew that at this moment, they had been separated. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, in a full 10 breaths of time, the spatial tunnel disappeared like an illusion. This made Lin Yi feel that he was hallucinating, but he soon reacted. The spatial tunnel was real. It was just so magical that he thought it was an illusion. After the spatial tunnel disappeared, he appeared in an endless primitive forest. Each of the trees here was the size of several people. He even saw trees with a diameter of 100 meters. Welcome to the great Xia world. At this moment, a voice sounded in front of Lin Yi. The voice was ancient, as if it had experienced the vicissitudes of life. The sudden voice startled Lin Yi. His expression changed and his figure flashed quickly, retreating backward. It would be strange if it was not scary. One had to know that he was a divine spiritual sorcerer at the peak of level 51. His divine spiritual sorcerer was unparalleled. Even if he did not check carefully, he could monitor everything within a radius of 10 miles. However, this voice came out of nowhere without any warning. Even his divine spiritual sorcerer did not notice. However, Lin Yi stopped when he retreated 1,000 meters. That was because he had found the source of the voice. He saw that in the place where he was originally, a light and shadow text of 1 meter in length and width appeared out of thin air. It looked very magical, even more magical than the crystal screen. These words were like phantoms. Pale gold, it looked very eye-catching. Race. Human name, Lin Yi. Heaven list value, 0. Cultivation, Celestial Realm. Age, 19. The shadow text was Lin Yi's simple information. Chapter 271. After confirming that the surroundings were safe for the time being, Lin Yi used his divine thought. The remnant scroll appeared in his hand and he opened it. Suddenly, a ray of light spread out and a remnant map of the world appeared on the remnant scroll. It was like an incomplete world. Cities appeared vividly on the remnant scroll. However, the routes of these cities couldn't be connected because it was only 1/5 of the remnant scroll. Lord Yunxing said that even if all the remnant scrolls were combined, he wouldn't be able to see the true face of the entire Great Xia dynasty. That was because the Great Xia dynasty was too big. It was so big that even the experts of the Great Xia dynasty couldn't draw a complete map. I have to find a conspicuous location first, Lin Yi muttered to himself. Although he had the remnant map, he didn't know his coordinate. It was like a drop of water in the sea. He couldn't tell north from south at all. No matter how good the map was, it was useless. Therefore, he had to find a location that existed on the remnant scroll. That way, he would be able to determine where he was. Where is the heaven roll of that world? Shouldn't there be a rendezvous point after being teleported in? Lin Yi used his movement technique and quickly flew in a direction. At the moment, he could only choose a direction and walk to the end. Otherwise, he would really get lost in the Great Xia dynasty. In his opinion, there was the heaven roll. There should be a rendezvous point. 3 years, he only had 3 years. It was long and short at the same time. In these 3 years, the first thing he had to do was to find the space node to return to the heavenly purification territory. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to return no matter how many opportunities he obtained here. In the end, he would even lose his life here. The World Heaven Roll is activated. Obtain 300 Heaven Roll points within a month. The Heaven Roll will be automatically teleported to Slight Spirit City. Just as Lin Yi was flying, the familiar voice from before sounded again. A shadow of golden words unfolded in front of him. As he flew, the golden words moved with him. They were always 10 meters away from him. Seeing this situation, Lin Yi was completely shocked. The civilization of the Great Xia dynasty was indeed magical. It was much more powerful than the civilization of the heavenly purification territory. Moreover, this place had already become a ruin. He didn't expect such a magical thing to exist. Perhaps the heavenly purification territory had it too, but he had never seen it. What is the heaven roll points? How do I obtain the roll points? Where is this place? Lin Yi probed, trying to see if he could communicate with the golden characters. If he could, that would be truly miraculous. However, he didn't have such hopes. He had only opened his mouth out of curiosity. What he hadn't expected was that this illusory golden character could actually communicate with him. It was as if he was alone inside. Furthermore, it was an omniscient existence. The heaven ranking points are the contributions you have made in the world of the Grand Xia. The heavenly ranking points can be obtained in 2 ways. The first way is to hunt demonic beasts, and the second way is to hunt other demonic beasts to snatch the heavenly ranking points. Hunting enemies of the same cultivation level will give you 1 point of heavenly ranking points. Crossing 1 level will give you 2 points, crossing 2 levels will give you 4 points, and so on. In Tiny Spirit City there is a Spirit Pagoda's amplification. I, the World Spirit, have no responsibility or right to tell you where this place is. Remember, if you need me in the future, you can summon me. I'm called the World Spirit. If you summon me, you will have to pay the heaven ranking points. The first time is 1 point, the second time is 2 points, and so on. That mysterious voice, with the vicissitudes of life, spoke at a moderate pace. Soon, Lin Yi knew some of the basic rules in the world of the Grand Xia. He also knew that the one who spoke just now was the World Spirit. The World Spirit would only tell him some of the most basic things. As for the rest, he had to figure it out himself. Moreover, summoning the World Spirit required him to pay the heaven ranking point. What made him even more speechless was that the more he summoned the World Spirit, the more the price he had to pay. After the World Spirit finished speaking, it then disappeared. Lin Yi couldn't help but pause as his mind raced. Looking at the current situation, he had to earn 300 heaven ranking points and head to Tiny Spirit City. Only in Tiny Spirit City, he would know more and would be able to find out his coordinates and figure out the map. Otherwise, it would be a waste of the map of the Tianyang Empire. Roar, roar! Lin Yi flew quickly as his divine telekinesis was fully unleashed. Everything within 100 miles was imprinted into his sea of consciousness, avoiding countless unknown dangers. In just a short 1,000 miles, he understood a serious problem. Fortunately, he was a powerful divine spiritual sorcerer. With the divine spiritual sorcerer at the peak of rank 51, he could discover some unknown hidden destruction in advance and easily avoid it. If he didn't have a powerful divine spiritual sorcerer, he would be courting death. He wouldn't even know how he died. At this moment, a roar came to his ears, causing his eardrums to hurt. As his divine spiritual sorcerer passed by, Lin Yi couldn't help but frown. Because he had encountered a powerful beast. If he had encountered a beast, he could have fled or fought. But now, he had encountered a group of beasts. What made him even more speechless was that this group of beasts were all at the peak of the heavenly human realm. They were only one step away from the Emperor realm. In the demon clan, an Emperor realm beast was equivalent to a sage-to-be and could transform into a human form. Boom boom! Each beast was 20 to 30 meters tall, and their huge bodies were filled with terrifying demon power. With a step, they crossed 100 meters. The earth was constantly trembling. Towering trees were broken in large swaths. Beasts migrating. Lin Yi hid and observed carefully. He found that these beasts were not targeting anyone, but migrating past here. Seeing this, he didn't make the slightest movement. Because he didn't intend to provoke this group of powerful beasts. Coincidentally, the direction of the beasts was in Lin Yi's direction. Lin Yi didn't dare to make the slightest movement. He hurriedly blocked his breath and entered the turtle breath. Time passed by minute. 100 miles away, the beasts arrived in less than a quarter of an hour. Roar, roar! What Lin Yi didn't expect was that more than 20 powerful beasts actually stopped not far away from him. The roars were even more fierce, and they were roaring in his direction. Obviously, he had been discovered. What puzzled him was that he had clearly hidden his figure and aura. How could these beasts discover him? Boom! The huge beast stomped down on Lin Yi, completely treating Lin Yi as a small ant. It was extremely violent, which made Lin Yi feel a little angry. At this time, it was not up to him to escape or hide. He could only fight. Moreover, he also wanted to know the extent of his true strength and the strength of the beasts in the Great Xiao world. He also wanted to know if he could kill all of these beasts. He scanned with his divine thought. He found a total of 27 beasts, all of which were at the peak of the heavenly human realm. If he killed all of them, he could get 4 heaven list points for each beast, which would be a total of 108 points. At this rate, he would be teleported to Tiny Spirit City after a few more trips. Chapter 272. Celestial Emperor Fist. 4th level, Imperial Advent. Looking at the giant foot that was about to destroy the world, Lin Yi activated the Starry Sky Divine Art and the 4th level of Celestial Emperor Fist burst out. When he reached the 4th level, he finally understood. The most terrifying Sage-class martial techniques were at the end. The Celestial Emperor Fist had a total of 7 levels. The first 3 levels could only be considered as false Sage-class martial techniques, which were a few levels stronger than Heaven-class martial techniques. However, the real power started from the 4th level. The 4th level was more than 1,000 times stronger than the 3rd level. Under the punch, there was an unparalleled power that seemed to be able to destroy the heavens. Boom! There was an earth-shattering explosion. The fist radiance and the giant foot of the demonic beast collided violently. The giant foot of the demonic beast was instantly turned into dust. The unparalleled power of the fist quickly spread through the demonic beast's body. The demonic beast's body quickly collapsed and cracks appeared. In just a breath's time, the demonic beast that was at the peak of the heavenly human realm was smashed into pieces. However, Lin Ye's celestial emperor fist was at the 4th level, Imperial Advent. After destroying the demonic beast, the power rushed into the void. It caused the void to distort and countless fragments to appear. It took a long time for the void to recover. Congratulations, you have obtained 4 points on the heaven list. In the Great Xiao world, the heaven list represents everything. You can exchange for what you need. Just as Lin Yi killed the first peak of the heavenly human realm demonic beast, the world spirit appeared in front of him and told Lin Yi that he had obtained 4 points on the heaven list. However, Lin Yi did not have time to rejoice at this moment, because a group of powerful demonic beasts was trampling over him. The peak of the heavenly human realm demonic beasts not only had invincible physical attacks, but also some powerful and simple martial technique. He killed the demonic beast, which made the demonic beast even more furious. For a moment, Lin Yi was surrounded by enemies. Facing the attacks of 26 peak heavenly human realm demonic beasts, he had no time to stop and could only dodge and fight quickly. Cold Sky Aurora. Celestial Emperor Fist. Sky-destroying Finger. Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal. Lin Ye's figure dodged between the gaps of the powerful demonic beast. At the same time, a series of earth-shattering sacred tier martial skills burst out. Not only had the Heavenly Emperor Fist reached the 4th level, but the Heavenly Frost Aurora and Heavenly Extermination Finger had also reached a higher level. Even the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal had reached the level of an Imperial Seal. Although the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal was only at the heavenly stage, it was still at the heavenly stage. What he did not expect was that the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Seal, which had reached the level of an Imperial Seal, was not much weaker than a Saint-tier martial skill. In terms of strength, it was even more terrifying than a Saint-tier martial skill. One by one, the demonic beasts were smashed to pieces. The number of demonic beasts decreased. After 20 breaths of time, Lin Yi stopped. The earth fell silent. 27 peak Deva realm demonlings had all fallen. They were deader than dead. What he heard most of the time was the tinkling sound, which was the sound of additional points on the heaven list. Although it was a little noisy, it gave people a kind of excitement. Heaven list points. 108. Looking at the golden words of the world spirit, Lin Yi smiled faintly. His ID chip also had his score on the heavenly ranking. The inner core of a peak Deva realm demonic beast is not bad. Lin Yi looked at the 27 huge corpses of the demonic beast. He could not help but shake his head. He could not help but think of when he was just an innate realm expert. He relied on hunting low-level demonic beasts to obtain materials to exchange for gold coins. But now, he was indifferent to the materials of a peak Deva realm demonic beast. If the materials of a peak Deva realm demonic beast had been given to him when he was an innate realm expert, he would have definitely gone crazy. But now, the materials that could catch his eye. It was only the inner core of a peak Deva realm demonic beast. The inner core could not only be used to refine elixirs, but also to refine weapons and set up formations. The Heavenly Sun Empire's battleships relied on the inner cores of the demonic beasts to power their formations. The inner cores of demonic beasts were undoubtedly a war preparation resource for the Heavenly Sun Empire's army. A sharp short sword appeared in his hand. Using his divine thought, the short sword rose into the air. Bloody wounds were cut on the bodies of the demonic beasts, and the powerful inner cores of the demonic beasts flew out. Lin Yi reached out and the inner cores of the demonic beasts fell into his hand. Half an hour later, the inner cores of the 27 demonic beasts were all taken by Lin Yi. In a flash, he quickly left the battlefield and continued to fly forward. His divine thought extended to the limit to search for demonic beasts and unknown dangers. One day later, Lin Yi hunted 91 powerful demonic beasts. These demonic beasts were at least Deva realm expert. The 91 demonic beasts gave him 307 heaven list point. Spirit of the world. After finishing off the inner core of the last demonic beast, Lin Yi took a short break and called out to the spirit of the world. Suddenly, a golden light appeared in front of him. At the same time, his heaven list points decreased by 1 point. Seeing this, Lin Yi almost cursed. 1 point was nothing to him, but he always felt that the spirit of the world was too stingy. After summoning it, his heaven list points would be deducted. If this went on, who would be able to summon the spirit of the world in the future? Do you want to teleport to Tiny Spirit City? After the spirit of the world appeared, it made a questioning sound. Hearing this, Lin Yi really wanted to curse. It clearly knew that he wanted to teleport to the spirit of the world, but he had to use the heaven list points to summon it once. This was not just a matter of wasting 1 point, but a waste of an opportunity, or even countless points. Because the points would increase exponentially later, this time, it was equivalent to adding 1 more summon for the future. Yes. Lin Yi could only be speechless and nodded to answer. Whoosh, less than a breath after he answered, the golden light of the spirit of the world shrouded and formed a portal. Seeing this, Lin Yi didn't hesitate at all. He took a step forward and entered the portal. 1 breath, 2 breath, 3 breath. After a full 40 breaths, Lin Yi felt his eyes light up. His whole body appeared out of thin air in a piece of yellow sand. Yellow sand flew all over the sky, covering the sky and the sun. The longer the teleportation time, the further the distance. Fortunately, he obtained the heaven list points to use the teleportation array. Otherwise, if he relied on himself to fly, he would not be able to reach it even if he flew for a lifetime. His divine thought passed through the yellow sand and saw a towering and huge city. The city walls of the city were 100 meters high. Behind the city walls there were castles. The castles were magnificent and exuded an ancient aura. Even time could not drown them out. This is Tiny Spirit City. Lin Yi looked at the city not far away and said to himself. At the same time, his divine thought moved. The map fragment appeared in his hand. He opened the map and carefully compared the city and geographical location on the map with Tiny Spirit City. After searching for a full quarter of an hour, he was lucky to find Tiny Spirit City on the map fragment. Although he was not sure, it was not far from the mark. He did not expect that Tiny Spirit City happened to be in 1/5 of the map fragment. In other words, his location was on the map fragment and he was lucky enough to find Tiny Spirit City on the map. Next, he could rely on the map to look for opportunities around Tiny Spirit City. Chapter 273. Human, you are the 328th person to enter Tiny Spirit City. Therefore, you are temporarily ranked 1328 on the heaven roll. Lin Yi came to the gate of Tiny Spirit City and saw an ancient crystal stone tablet. The crystal stone tablet was 1,000 meters tall, and there were countless names engraved on it. There were names of beasts, aboriginals, and outsiders. The more points on the heaven roll, the higher the ranking. Lin Yi realized that the top 1,000 were all names of beasts and aboriginals. This was normal because the 8 foreign tribes and 2 empires had just arrived at the opening of the Great Xia World ruins. Not many of them had entered Tiny Spirit City, so their ranking was naturally not high. Hearing that he was the 328th person to enter Tiny Spirit City, Lin Yi was shocked. His speed was considered fast. However, he did not expect someone to be faster than him. It seemed that there were many people with mysterious and terrifying means among the geniuses who had entered the Great Xia World ruins this time. They were not as simple as they seemed. A trace of vigilance rose in his heart. He was surprised to find that Ming Yang was ranked above 1067. Among the geniuses of the Tianyang Empire, he was ranked the highest. I am the guardian of Tiny Spirit City. Fighting is strictly prohibited in Tiny Spirit City. You can choose a place to cultivate. I suggest that you first understand the rules of Tiny Spirit City and the Great Xia world. When Lin Yi entered Tiny Spirit City, an expert who was 10 meters tall stopped him. This expert was wearing a dark gray armor and his tone was different from the heavenly purification territory. One could tell at a glance that he was an expert from the Great Xia world or a puppet. After the guardian finished speaking, he stepped aside. He let Lin Yi go to the castle in the city. Lin Yi realized that there were many guardians in the city and each of them had terrifying strength. However, these guardians did not move. They were motionless like statues. The geniuses who had entered earlier did not see any of them. However, he saw that some of the castles were shrouded in a light shield. Some of them were not shrouded by the light shield. The street was at least 100 meters wide, and the ground was all hard bluestone. There were no gaps between the bluestone, as if it was a hole. After walking for a while, Lin Yi was completely unaware of the rules inside. He also did not know how to choose a place to cultivate. He was like a headless fly, wandering around aimlessly. World Spirit. He found a relatively remote place. Shaking his head helplessly, he summoned the World Spirit. 2 points were deducted from the heaven list. What is it? The World Spirit appeared, and its ancient voice rang out. How do I choose a place to cultivate? Tell me about the rules and precautions of Tiny Spirit City. Also, the existence of Tiny Spirit City. Lin Ye's heart ached when he saw the 2 points deducted from his heaven ranking point. Now, he only had 4 points left on the heaven ranking point. It was just enough for him to summon the World Spirit next time. After that, he didn't even have the heavenly ranking points to summon the World Spirit. He asked a few questions in one breath. A castle with a light cover means that it has an owner. A castle without a light cover means that it has no owner and can be lived in. A castle that has been lived in can only have one owner. Unless the owner leaves or dies, others can't enter without the permission of the castle owner. There is a time limit in Tiny Spirit City. Every month, you can only live in Tiny Spirit City for free for 3 days. If you exceed 3 days, your heaven list will be deducted as a price. There are 3 treasured places in Tiny Spirit City. There are a total of 33 floors in Tiny Spirit Tower. Every floor you pass will increase your heaven list by 10%. There are a total of 4 floors in Tiny Spirit Tower. The time ratio of the first floor is 2:1, the time ratio of the second floor is 4:1, the time ratio of the third floor is 8:1, and the time ratio of the fourth floor is 16:1. The Heavenly Treasure Pagoda has a total of 9 floors. There are countless heavenly treasures, sacred weapons, equipment, elixirs, and skills. However, all of them have to be exchanged with the heaven ranking point. The World Spirit explained slowly. It answered all the questions that Lin Yi wanted to know. It introduced the 3 treasured places in Tiny Spirit Tower. Among the 3 treasured places, one could increase the amplitude of heaven list point. Another was a place where time could be changed. Cultivation inside was different from the outside world. The last one was Tiny Spirit Tower. There were countless treasures inside. Of course, one had to have a terrifying heaven list points because these treasures could only be exchanged with heaven list point. Can other people who come to Tiny Spirit City? Lin Yi was curious. Since they were teleported in randomly, someone must have been teleported to a faraway place. The problem was, if they could all come to Tiny Spirit City, what was the point of being randomly teleported? Every time the Great Xia world opens, the teleportation area is different. However, every time someone is teleported in, they are in a large area. As long as they have heaven list points to summon the teleportation array, they can come to Tiny Spirit City. However, when they leave Tiny Spirit City, it is also random. The World Spirit answered Lin Ye's question. Suddenly, Lin Yi finally understood that random teleportation was not meaningless. Everyone could come to Tiny Spirit City, but when they left Tiny Spirit City, it was random. It was basically impossible to find one's own people. Of course, there were lucky and exceptions. Is there a time limit for the 3 treasured places? Lin Yi asked again. He asked the question in his heart. Coming to this strange place, it was full of unknown dangers. He had to understand everything here first so that he would not die without knowing how he died. In Tiny Spirit Tower, everyone only has 3 chances every month. There is no time limit. There is no time limit for the Tower of Time and Tiny Spirit Tower. Oh yes, the Heaven List rankings will be reset to 0 on the last day of every month. The rankings will start again, but the Heaven List points will not be reset to 0. It is time for the World Spirit to summon. After the World Spirit finished speaking, it disappeared. Lin Yi was stunned. Originally, he was still thinking that every time he summoned, he would have to deduct the Heaven List points. He wondered if he could always keep the World Spirit by his side so that he would not have to summon it again. However, he did not expect that there would be a time limit for the summoned World Spirit. It seemed that he had been thinking too much previously. Fortunately, he had already known everything that he wanted to know. As for the rest, he had to slowly figure it out on his own. He collected his thoughts and began to look for the place that he wanted to cultivate. Soon, he found a good location. The castle did not have a light shield, which meant that the castle was ownerless. He looked at the castle and walked in. When he entered the castle, a ray of light was emitted from the castle. The light formed a light shield and shrouded the entire castle. Chapter 274. On the 3rd day of Lin Ye's stay in Tiny Spirit City. Most of the geniuses from the 2 empires and the 8 major foreign tribes had entered Tiny Spirit City. The rest either didn't have enough Heaven List points and couldn't be teleported, or they had died in an unknown danger, or they were eaten by powerful beasts. The Great Xia World ruins had a slim chance of survival. The moment they entered the Great Xia World, their death would only end after they left the Great Xia World. On this day, Lin Yi was ready to leave Tiny Spirit City to earn Heaven List points. That was because one could only stay in Tiny Spirit City for 3 days. After 3 days, one would have to collect Heaven List points. Just like summoning the World Spirit, the Heaven List points used would increase exponentially and no one could afford it. He could only leave Tiny Spirit City to earn Heaven List points. Just as he was about to leave, he saw the 3rd prince, Sun Wuyu. Although Sun Wuyu made it to Tiny Spirit City alive, he was covered in injuries and looked like he had crawled out from a pile of corpses. He looked terrible. Coming out of the cultivation place, along the way, he saw the geniuses who entered Tiny Spirit City. Most of them were injured and very few of them made it to the Great Xia World safely. Brother Lin, how long have you been in Tiny Spirit City? The 3rd prince smiled bitterly when he saw Lin Yi. As he spoke, there was blood at the corner of his mouth. His face was pale and it was obvious that he was seriously injured. Thinking about it, the 3rd prince was much weaker than the geniuses in Sky City. It was already impressive that he could make it to the Great Xia World safely. I've been here for 3 days. Look, I have to go out to earn Heaven List points soon. How are your injuries? Lin Yi asked. Not only him, but everyone else who had stayed for 3 days had to leave Tiny Spirit City. He looked at the 3rd prince's injuries and couldn't help but frown. The 3rd prince's injuries were serious. He definitely wouldn't be able to recover in 3 days. Wandering around the Great Xia World with injuries was undoubtedly courting death. However, he couldn't help the 3rd prince now. He could only rely on himself. I'm fine. I've already prepared a divine healing pill before I came. Have you seen Su Meng? The 3rd prince shook his head. Although his injuries were serious as the prince of the Cloud Sky Kingdom, he definitely had some precious pills on him. As long as he was given a chance to treat his injuries, he would recover in no time. I didn't see him. These are some things to note and rules of Tiny Spirit City. Take a good look. I have to leave. Lin Yi pondered for a moment. He took out a blank jade slip from the ninefold space, and used his divine thought to record the things to take note of and some rules in Tiny Spirit City so that the third prince could read it. With this jade slip, at least the third prince wouldn't have to summon the world spirit. Thank you. The third prince took the jade slip and thanked him. Then, the two of them separated. Lin Yi walked out of Tiny Spirit City, while the third prince entered Tiny Spirit City to find a place to cultivate and recuperate. He checked the jade slip that Lin Yi had given him and quickly understood the rules of Tiny Spirit City. After leaving Tiny Spirit City, they passed through the land of yellow sand. Suddenly, Lin Yi felt a burst of absent-mindedness, and the scene around him changed. When he recovered, he had already left the land of yellow sand and he didn't know where he was. With a thought, the spirit-gathering crystal appeared in his hand. The spirit-gathering crystal emitted a mysterious aura that spread out in all directions. Looking at his own identity crystal, Lin Yi couldn't help but be delighted. That was because he had actually discovered the location of the third prince, Sun Wuyu, on his identity crystal. He had just met Sun Wuyu. He was sure that Sun Wuyu was in Tiny Spirit City. As the captain, he could sense the location of his teammates within 10,000 miles. This was enough to prove that he was within 10,000 miles of Tiny Spirit City. In other words, he was at most 10,000 miles away from Tiny Spirit City. He opened the map fragment. He quickly found a geographical location 10,000 miles away from Tiny Spirit City. The sun is setting in the west. My location is in the east. It's in the southeast of Tiny Spirit City. Further ahead should be the Dark Forest. The Dark Forest has the most powerful beasts and is one of the best places to earn heaven list points. Lin Yi put away the map fragment. He was certain of his current location. If he were to be randomly teleported 10,000 miles away after leaving Tiny Spirit City, it would be much easier to gather his teammate. He suddenly remembered that the spirit-gathering crystal could sense within 10,000 miles. Could it be that this crystal was specially made to deal with this desert? It might be possible. His figure flashed and he spread out his divine thought. He quickly flew in the direction of the Dark Forest. The Dark Forest was the largest mountain range near Tiny Spirit City. The mountain range stretched for millions of miles, and there were countless powerful beasts in the mountains. Not only were there heavenly human beasts, there were also emperor beasts. There were even emperor-level beasts. Of course, the most powerful beasts were in the center of the forest. Generally speaking, as long as one wasn't seeking death, one wouldn't go to the center. Moreover, even if one wanted to go to the center, one wouldn't have the ability to do so. The powerful beasts would treat one as a delicious meal on the way. There are 3 more days until the end of the month. I have to work hard to earn heaven list points. Lin Yi thought about the heaven list points as he flew. There were 3 more days until the end of the month. In the last 2 hours of the end of the month, the heaven list rankings would be reset and the heaven list points would be reset to 0. However, the individual heaven list points wouldn't be reset to 0 and one could still use the heaven list points to trade or purchase items. Time passed by minute. He flew continuously for 4 hours. Lin Yi was already close to the Dark Forest. Looking from afar, the mountains overlapped and the entire mountain forest was shrouded in powerful demon aura. It gave one the feeling that the mountain was a ferocious beast that devoured everything. Roar, roar. In the forest, the roars of the beasts were deafening. However, Lin Yi didn't stop. Instead, he sped up and flew in the direction of the roars of the beasts. However, the Starry Sky Divine Art was already activated and he could unleash a devastating attack at any time. Soon, the powerful beasts appeared in Lin Yi's sight. However, Lin Yi looked solemn when he saw the beasts. More than 10 heavenly human beasts were nothing to him. However, what made him solemn was that a terrifying demon aura had locked onto his chi. The demon aura was extremely terrifying. Although there was no attack coming at him. In front of the terrifying demon aura, Lin Yi felt a huge pressure. This kind of pressure was like facing a half-saint expert. Yes, it was at the half-saint level. Needless to say, he had encountered an emperor-level beast and was locked onto by it. Now, he could either fight or escape. Hiding was undoubtedly deceiving himself. Kill. Lin Ye's eyes narrowed. A terrifying aura erupted from his body. The starry sky divine art was activated to the peak and the divine dragon 9 transformations was activated. His figure flashed and he charged toward more than 10 powerful heavenly human beasts. Chapter 275. Boom. Boom. In the forest, the destructive attack crushed countless towering trees into powder. Lin Yi integrated the Heavenly Emperor Fist, the Heavenly Frost Aurora, and the Sky-Destroying Finger into the battle. Every attack was smooth and clean, like flowing water. It looked like a light attack, but the power was earth-shattering. All 18 celestial realm demonic beasts fell. Lin Ye's spirit became more and more tense. Floating in the air, the silver star sacred sword appeared in his hand. It was 1,000 inscriptions sacred weapon, exuding a destructive saint aura. With him as the center, the sword realm cut the space into pieces. The gold realm shone with golden light. At this moment, Lin Yi had reached his peak state. Damn you, human! Terrifying demonic chi filled the air, followed by an unparalleled holy aura. However, what puzzled Lin Yi was that he did not see any demonic beasts when the holy aura descended. Soon, he understood. Emperor-level demonic beasts could transform into human form. Sure enough, a demonic middle-aged man appeared in front of him. The middle-aged man exuded an unparalleled saint aura. He was like a peerless demon god. An emperor-level demonic beast in human form was indeed terrifying. After transforming, emperor-level demonic beasts were more adapted to fighting with humans. They also had high intelligence, not inferior to humans at all. Die, beast! Lin Yi said and waved the silver star sacred sword in his hand. 1,000 inscriptions sacred weapon could destroy heaven and earth with one blow. And at this moment, the blow carried the first style of the sky sword 12 styles, 19 chilling sword. The sword realm and the gold realm were combined, and its power was peerless. The sword light flashed and the world was cold. Swish. To Lin Ye's surprise, his full-strength sword was blocked by the other party's bare hands. One should know that his sword was thousands of times stronger than when he was in Sky City. However, the emperor-level demonic beast in human form blocked it easily. It didn't even hurt the other party. That's all. The middle-aged man looked at Lin Ye's blow and said disdainfully, Emperor-level demonic beasts were equivalent to human half-saint. Lin Yi was a celestial realm martial artist with 5 Qi-Yang realm martial artist. Therefore, there was a huge gap between his cultivation base and that of a demisage emperor realm martial artist. Boom! The middle-aged man finished speaking. He threw a punch at Lin Yi from a distance. In an instant, unparalleled demonic power and holy might descended. The space trembled and shattered. In an instant, the destructive fist smashed in front of Lin Yi. Absolute defense. The silver star sacred sword left Lin Ye's hand and floated in the air. Immediately, a Taiji light and shadow shield appeared in front of him. Absolute defense, the true absolute defense. Bang! Poof! With a muffled sound, the fist landed heavily on the Taiji shield. The Taiji shield trembled violently and almost shattered. However, it managed to block the fist in the end. However, the incomparably powerful demonic energy caused Lin Yi to spit out a mouthful of blood. His body quickly retreated backward. The towering trees were broken into pieces. His entire body seemed to be on the verge of falling apart. At this moment, he finally understood the gap between a celestial being and a half-saint. Even if a powerful half-saint couldn't break through the absolute defense with a single strike, that unparalleled power could still injure you. Cultivation base, cultivation base. The gap was too big and the battle was not symmetrical. At this moment, Lin Ye's desire for cultivation base had reached its peak. Die! The middle-aged man's body flashed. Another punch was thrown at Lin Yi. This punch was countless times stronger than before. If he was hit, even if Lin Yi had a self-healing body and the Divine Dragon 9 transformations, he would still die. He was about to be hit. A trace of helplessness appeared on Lin Ye's face. Imprison. Looking at the middle-aged man, he pointed his finger in the air. Suddenly, there was a strange fluctuation in space. Then, the middle-aged man was strangely imprisoned in the air. Cold sky aurora. Taking advantage of the middle-aged man's imprisonment, Lin Yi flapped his wings of space and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already above the middle-aged man's head. In his hand a ball of cold sky aurora appeared. Then, the cold sky aurora fiercely slapped down on the middle-aged man's head. At this moment, the middle-aged man's imprisonment had already recovered. Looking at Lin Ye's actions above his head, the middle-aged man was clearly startled, not knowing what had happened. The threat of death made it instinctively react. However, it was too late. Wherever the cold sky aurora passed, the middle-aged man's entire head was pierced. The cold sky aurora wreaked havoc in his body. Screams and roars rang out one after another. The middle-aged man returned to his original appearance. A powerful monster beast that was 30 meters tall was constantly struggling. At the end of its life, its final struggle was earth-shattering. The towering trees were reduced to dust. The aftermath of the demonic power and demonic aura forced Lin Yi to activate his defense to resist. Rumble finally, 3 breaths later. The Emperor-level monster beast fell down, unable to move. Its life force was rapidly fading, and it couldn't be any more dead. Ding! With a slight sound, 16 points were added to the heaven list. Lin Yi was stunned for a moment. Then, he realized that this demonic Emperor-level beast was not an ordinary one. It was a demonic Emperor-level beast that had gone through 2 tribulations. A demonic Emperor-level beast that had gone through 2 tribulations was equivalent to a demonic Emperor-level beast that was 5 ranks higher than him. Therefore, the heaven list value he obtained was 16 points. An Emperor-level monster is indeed powerful. Lin Yi threw an elixir into his mouth, hid in a towering tree, and began to heal his injuries. His injuries weren't serious. Even if he didn't heal his injuries, his self-healing body would be able to heal him quickly. 2 hours later, he opened his eyes, flashed, and flew into the depths of the forest. His injuries were completely healed. He had already made up his mind. He shouldn't fight with an Emperor-level monster rashly. That would be too disadvantageous for him. Unless his cultivation reached the level of 9-1 or even reach the Transcendence Golden Body, he should avoid an Emperor-level monster if he encountered one. Also, with his current cultivation, fighting an Emperor-level monster was not worth it. It took a lot of effort and he had to take risks, but he only earned 16 points on the heaven list. If he used this time to deal with Heavenly Man-level monsters, it would be faster to earn heaven list points. Of course, when he got used to fighting, he would have to fight an Emperor-level monster. Fighting an Emperor-level monster often could not only earn heaven list points, but also improve his combat experience and strength. 1 day later, Lin Ye's heaven list value reached 171 points. 2 days later, Lin Ye's heaven list value reached 387 points. 3 days later, Lin Ye's heaven list value reached 613 points. Looking at the time, his figure flashed, and he quickly flew out of the forest. This was the last day of the month. Although he knew that it was impossible for him to be on the heaven list, he could go and see how powerful those people on the heaven list were. He could remember the most powerful experts so that when he met them, he wouldn't know who they were. In less than half a day, Lin Yi returned to Tiny Spirit City again. At this time, countless experts gathered outside Tiny Spirit City. Chapter 276. He carefully scanned with his divine telekinesis. He sized up all the experts around the heaven leaderboard. There were more than 5,000 experts. Lin Yi was stunned by this discovery. Only 2,000 people from the 2 empires and the 8 major foreign tribes came in, but there were more than 5,000 experts here. And this was not including those who were not here. Why were there so many experts all of a sudden? More importantly, most of these experts were unfamiliar faces. They were not from the 2 empires or the 8 major foreign tribes. Aboriginals! A word appeared in his mind. Lord Yunxing had said that there were not only experts from the 2 empires and the 8 major foreign tribes in the Great Xia world, but there were also aboriginals. Moreover, the aboriginals were very powerful. Those unfamiliar experts were clearly hostile to outsiders. But in Wei Ling City, no one dared to fight here. Countless names flashed on the 1,000-meter-tall crystal tablet. Those who were at the top had the highest ranking. First place, Ruo Lanyu, 681,492 points on the heaven leaderboard. Second place, Xiao Yu, 601,000 points on the heaven leaderboard. Third place, Mu Jili, 600,472 points on the heaven leaderboard. Fourth place, Taiyin Lake, 393,421 points on the heaven leaderboard. Fifth place, Don Wu Hao, 339,810 points on the heaven leaderboard. Sixth place, Zhuge Wu, 250,333 points on the heaven leaderboard. 100th place, Luo Xiao, 80,118 points on the heaven leaderboard. 200th place, Mo Luojian, 40,023 points on the heaven leaderboard. 300th place, Mu Tianxing, 20,000 points on the heaven leaderboard. 1000th place, Bai Yun, 4,000 points on the heaven leaderboard. Lin Yi glanced at the heaven leaderboard and could not help but be shocked. The top 100 experts were indeed powerful. They had almost 100,000 points on the heaven leaderboard. Especially the top 3, each of them had 600,000 points. He could not figure out how they got 600,000 points in a month. There were 2,000 people on the heaven leaderboard. Lin Yi saw that he was ranked 1701. After 3 days of crazy battles, he was only ranked 1700. It was unimaginable to enter the top 100. Ruo Lanyu has been ranked first for 4 months. I truly didn't expect a woman to be this powerful. Xiuyu is also very strong. 4 months ago, she was number 1. She and Mu Jili took turns to be number 1 and number 2. Now there is Ruo Lanyu. The top 3 on the heaven ranking list have left the others far behind. If only I had that many points on the heaven list. Countless voices were talking about the top 10 expert. There was not much fluctuation in this ranking. Basically, it was the same group of people. Lin Yi realized that there were many women among these experts, and these women were all very powerful. This isn't their final heaven roll score. Because they still have amplitude. Who doesn't know that? The one with the highest amplitude is Ruo Lanyu, whose amplitude is 1.7. Ruo Lanyu is close to 700,000 heaven leaderboard points. Including the amplitude value, that would be close to 1,200,000 heaven leaderboard points. If the amplitude reaches 2.0 or 3.0, that would be terrifying. Do you think it's so easy to increase the amplitude? The amplitude value was raised in the Tiny Spirit Tower. In the 33 floors of the Tower of Tiny Spirits, the amplitude would increase by 10% with every floor passed. The higher the amplitude value, the more heaven leaderboard points would be added. Brother Lin, you're so powerful. You entered the heaven leaderboard in just 3 days. The third prince, Sun Wuyu, greeted Lin Yi when he saw him. He was shocked by Lin Yi's strength. In just 3 days, he had obtained more than 600 heaven leaderboard points. It was enviable. The other experts from the Tianyang Empire were also envious. Lin Yi's team members also went up to greet Lin Yi. To them, the stronger Lin Yi was, the more beneficial it would be for them. Although they did not have any conflicts of interest with other experts, if they were to fight with other experts, the stronger they were, the better it would be for them. Outsiders, you're so short-sighted. You have the cheek to praise a mere 600 heaven leaderboard points. A local expert saw that the experts from the Tianyang Empire were envious of Lin Yi. He could not help but curl his lips in disdain. He looked down on outsiders from the bottom of his heart. May I know who you are? When the third prince heard the local expert's words, immediately he was filled with anger. He opened his mouth and asked the local expert. His tone was calm. After all, he did not know who this local expert was or how strong he was. Mu Tianxing, the local expert said. He raised his head to the sky with an arrogant look on his face. He really did not know where his arrogance came from. What right did he have to be so arrogant? He looked down on everyone as if he was the king of the heavens. He's ranked 300 on the heaven leaderboard. Mu Zhili is your brother, right? The third prince was stunned. He had a dignified look on his face. He knew that the local expert in front of him was ranked 300. What made him feel dignified was that Mu Tianxing had a terrifying brother, Mu Zhili, who was ranked 3rd on the heaven leaderboard. He was definitely an invincible existence among the diviners in the great Xia world. It's good that you know. Mu Tianxing nodded proudly. So it's brother Mu. The third prince smiled apologetically. In the ruins of the great Xia world, not only did he have to face the experts of the 2 empires, but he also had to face the experts of the 8 foreign races. What made him even more fearful were the local experts. Now that he had met an expert on the heaven leaderboard, and this person's brother was ranked 3rd on the heaven leaderboard, he naturally could not offend him. At least for now, he had to endure it. Don't call me your brother. You're not qualified. Mu Tianxing glanced at the third prince with disdain. He said indifferently. After saying that, he turned around and left, as if he was humiliating himself by talking to an outsider. His behavior made countless experts of the heavenly purification territory feel angry. However, they did not dare to say anything. Go back and cultivate. Only when you're strong can you have the right to speak. Lin Yi patted the third prince on the shoulder and said. He naturally knew that the third prince had just stood up for him, but he did not expect to be humiliated by Mu Tianxing. However, he had to endure it now. When he had the chance, he would teach Mu Tianxing a lesson. I must make him kneel on the ground and beg for death. The third prince looked at Mu Tianxing's back and said in a low voice. After that, Lin Yi and the other team members entered Tiny Spirit City together. The members of their team all gathered in the third prince's castle. Lin Yi left all these matters to the third prince. This was because he did not want to affect his own cultivation. Moreover, he knew that he was not as good as the third prince in handling matters. In the ruins of the great Xia world, opportunities and dangers coexist. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's a narrow escape. What we're facing is not only the experts of the Heavenly Jin Empire, but also the experts of the Tianyang Empire. The 8 foreign races are also our opponent. The most powerful enemies are the local experts and monsters. In 3 years, we'll try our best to earn Heaven Leaderboard points and cultivate in the Tower of Time. We'll use the Heaven Leaderboard points to exchange for rare treasures. Back in the castle, the third prince's mood had improved. He said seriously. Chapter 277. Including Lin Yi, this team originally had 31 people. But now there were only 13 people gathered together. Based on the time, most of the others had died. Otherwise, they would have reached Tiny Spirit City long ago. In just a few days after entering the Great Xia World ruins, almost 2/3 of them had died. One could imagine how terrifying and cruel it was inside. This was just the beginning. It was not a joke to say that one would die 9 times out of 10. Although there were 13 people gathered now, it was unknown whether there would be 3 who could leave the Great Xia World ruins alive. Actually, in the Great Xia World ruins, Heaven List Points, Tower of Time, Tiny Spirit Tower, and Heavenly Treasure Pagoda are all in a virtuous cycle. They complement each other, and the strong will always be strong. With Heaven List Points, you can cultivate in the Tower of Time and improve your cultivation by leaps and bounds. With Heaven List Points, you can exchange for rare treasures and equipment in the Heavenly Treasure Pagoda. With powerful equipment and cultivation, you'll be able to obtain more points on the Heaven List. It's all linked. Now, the place you are going to is the Tiny Spirit Tower. See how far you can go. With each floor, you can increase your Heaven List points by 10%. The third prince paused for a moment. He continued. Actually, even if they did not understand this, they knew that it was a virtuous cycle. The strong will always be strong. However, no matter how virtuous the cycle was, there had to be a beginning. Of course, apart from the 3 treasure lands in the Tiny Spirit Tower and Heaven List Point, there are many other things that can make you stronger. The Great Xia World ruins have endless opportunities and opportunities. Tiny Spirit City is only a small part of it. In other words, Tiny Spirit City is insignificant in the Great Xia World. The national treasure of the Cloud Sky Kingdom, Cloud Sky Tower, was obtained from other secret realms in the Great Xia World. His Royal Highness the Third Prince spoke without stopping. Lin Yi and the other strong people listened and could not help but admire the Third Prince. In just 3 days, he had learned so much. Compared to him, the difference between the two of them was like heaven and earth. As the team leader, I only have a few words to say. As for other matters, Sun Wuyu will arrange everything. If you follow me, you won't be disappointed. What I hate the most is betrayal. If you don't want to stand on my side now, you can leave. I won't force you. I guarantee with my integrity that in the world of Grand Xia, even if you leave my team, I, Lin Yi, will not do anything to you. I will even treat you like a team member. However, I will not give you any guarantees or benefit. Now I'll give you 15 minutes to consider. Lin Yi waited for the third prince to finish speaking. He stood up and said what he wanted to say. Because he already had a plan in mind. However, before implementing this plan, he had to eliminate some disloyal people. Captain! 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 Of the 13 people, some were deep in thought, some were hesitating. However, they quickly decided to follow Lin Yi. There was nothing else to say. The title of captain was enough to prove their choice. They chose to follow Lin Yi. All right, tomorrow is a new month. Let's go to the Dark Forest to earn Heaven List points. As your captain, I'll help you for a month. Within this month, I'll bring you to hunt more beasts. After a month, it will depend on your luck. I hope that all my team members can become saints and leave the world of Grand Xia alive. Lin Yi said. After finishing his words, he turned and left. However, he didn't return to his castle. Instead, he walked towards the Tower of Time. Captain, do you have a powerful method to earn Heaven List points? Even the top 10 strongest people in Sky City are no match for Captain. Tian Yi is so strong, but he was still defeated by Captain in one strike. No one will believe that Captain doesn't have a trump card. To earn 600 Heaven List points in 3 days, he must have a powerful method. Don't think too much. Prepare well and follow Brother Lin to the Dark Forest tomorrow. Brother Lin's strength is beyond our imagination. In the future, you will understand how wise your choice is today. After Lin Yi left, Everyone was still in shock. Of course, they were also excited. For a moment, there were endless discussions. They were curious about what Lin Yi was so confident about. In the end, it was the third prince who stopped their discussions. He asked them to return to their castles and prepare well. Those present were either monstrous powerhouses of the Tianyang Empire or one of the three monstrous powerhouses of the kingdom. Every one of them was extremely arrogant. However, at this moment, they had to submit to Lin Yi and the third prince. More importantly, in such a place, surviving was the goal. The Tower of Time. One of the three treasured lands of Tiny Spirit City. It was located in the center of Tiny Spirit City. There were countless guardians here. There were also mysterious formations left behind from ancient times. There was simply no one who could cause trouble here. If anyone dared to cause trouble here, Tiny Spirit City's defense would immediately annihilate them, causing them to vanish into thin air. Not even a trace of them would be left. The Tower of Time was 1,000 meters tall but only 100 meters in diameter. It was like a sharp sword piercing through the clouds. Mysterious, ethereal. That was the first impression it gave. Streaks of colorful light surrounded the Tower of Time. In front of the Tower of Time was a huge square. There were powerhouses coming and going in the square from time to time. However, most of them were here to have fun. Not many could enter the Tower of Time to cultivate. After all, entering the Tower of Time to cultivate would consume a terrifying amount of heaven list points. Lin Yi withdrew his gaze from the Tower of Time. He strode towards the entrance. At the entrance there was a giant guardian. His eyes were like torches, making one's heart tremble. Enter the Tower of Time. Understand the rules first. Before Lin Yi spoke, the guardian pointed to the stone tablet at the side. There were small silver words flashing on the stone tablet. These small words were the rules and precautions of the Tower of Time, as well as the corresponding amount of heaven list points to pay. The first level, 10 heaven list points per day. The second level, 100 heaven list points per day. The third level, 1,000 heaven list points per day. The fourth level, 10,000 heaven list points per day. After understanding the rules of the Tower of Time, Lin Yi looked at the price. Seeing the price, Lin Yi was speechless. However, there was a reason for the high price. The higher the price, the greater the proportion of time spent cultivating inside. On the fourth level, the time ratio was different. In other words, 16 days of cultivation inside was only 1 day in the outside world. However, the heaven list points consumed in 1 day of cultivation on the fourth level were equivalent to 1,000 days of cultivation on the first level. Lin Yi thought about it. Those who came here were all monstrous powerhouses. They would definitely not waste their time on the first level. They would spend their time on the third and fourth levels, or at least the second level. Chapter 278. Lord Guardian. Will there be a prompt when the time is up for cultivation? Lin Yi looked at the Guardian. He bowed slightly and asked. There will be a time prompt when you enter. There will be a prompt every day. The time limit is 10 breaths. Within 10 breaths, you can consider continuing cultivation or quitting. After 10 breaths, it will automatically default to quitting. The Guardian didn't even look at Lin Yi. The loud voice reached Lin Yi's ears. Thank you, Lord Guardian. I want to enter the second floor to cultivate. After Lin Yi expressed his gratitude, he told the number of floors he wanted to go to. He wanted to confirm one thing before entering the Tower of Time to cultivate, that is, whether the time ratio of the Tower of Time and his ninefold space would overlap. If it could be overlapped, it would be unbelievable. If the time ratio was 16:1, it would be 32:1. It was simply unimaginable how terrifying it would be. In other words, 512 days of cultivation in the ninefold space would only be 1 day in the outside world. Go in. The Guardian pointed at the second teleportation array. He let Lin Yi enter the Tower of Time from the second teleportation array. Lin Yi nodded and stepped into the teleportation array. The teleportation light shone, and Lin Ye's figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he had entered an independent world full of spiritual energy. In this world, there was nothing but spiritual energy. The spiritual energy was as rich as the outside world. After entering this independent world, Lin Yi looked around to make sure there was no surveillance. Then, his figure disappeared and reappeared in the ninefold space. He came to the chaotic divine tree and began to cultivate the gold domain and sword domain. Time passed day by day. Lin Yi completely entered the state of selflessness. 4 months and 8 days. Ding, time prompt. Do you want to continue? A soft voice sounded in his ear. This voice was extremely gentle. Even when cultivating, it wouldn't disturb the cultivation, but it could remind the cultivator at the first moment. Lin Yi opened his eyes. His face was full of excitement. Quit. He opened his mouth and said lightly. 3 breaths later, his entire body was swept away by a burst of light. When he reappeared, he had already been beside the teleportation formation below the Tower of Time. Junior, when things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. I hope you follow the rules of the Heavenly Tao. If this goes on, it will be difficult for you to survive the heavenly tribulation. There are pros and cons. You have to weigh them yourself. Don't worry, the Grand Xia will not control you. The Guardian opened his slightly closed eyes and glanced at Lin Yi. A voice reached Lin Ye's ears. Lin Yi couldn't help but be stunned. Even idiots knew that his time-layering treasure in the Tower of Time had been discovered. However, the Guardian didn't stop or interrupt his cultivation. Instead, he kindly reminded him after he finished cultivating. Thank you for your guidance, Lord Guardian. Junior will keep it in mind and weigh the pros and cons. Lin Yi bowed and left. His heart was filled with gratitude towards this protector. He naturally understood the rules of the heavenly Tao. The more defiant one was, the more terrifying the heavenly tribulation would be. He was still in the celestial realm. If he wanted to become a sage, he had to go through the heavenly tribulation. Even after becoming a sage, he still had to go through various heavenly tribulations. Cultivators went against the heavenly Tao. If they went against the heavenly Tao, they would be punished by the heavenly Tao. After leaving the Tower of Time, Lin Yi directly walked towards the castle of His Highness the Third Prince. Because he said that he would take them to the dark forest to hunt monsters to earn points on the heaven list. While cultivating in the Tower of Time, a day had passed in the outside world. Looking at the sky, it was already afternoon. However, 4 powerhouses, day and night didn't affect them. Brother Lin. Captain. When Lin Yi came to the castle of the Third Prince and other team members had already been waiting here with anxious looks. Obviously, they had been waiting here for a long time. Seeing Lin Yi, they all greeted Lin Yi. Are you ready? Lin Yi asked. It's ready. Captain, it's ready. Captain, it's already afternoon. Are we still going out? Are you kidding? If we don't go out, do we have heaven list points to stay here? We have to go out. Looking at the sky, the sun was setting. Several team members asked Lin Yi if he wanted to go out. Before Lin Yi answered, the other team members spoke. In Tiny Spirit City, one would have to collect heaven list points if they stayed for more than 3 days. They had just arrived in the world of Great Xia and desperately hunted monsters to earn heaven list points before being teleported here. They no longer had heaven list points on them. Naturally, they couldn't be so extravagant to use heaven list points to stay in Tiny Spirit City. Leave the Yellow Sandland. We will be separated randomly. Remember, after separating, sense my location. If you don't sense me, return to Tiny Spirit City immediately and teleport again. I will wait for you at the closest place to the Yellow Sandland for a day. If you don't meet up with me within a day, go to the dark forest on your own. Lin Yi reminded them again and again. He asked the third prince and the others to find a way to meet up. After leaving Tiny Spirit City, there were dangerous places everywhere. It was no exaggeration to say that after leaving Tiny Spirit City, the other places were all death zones. It was too difficult to survive. Understood. Understood. Everyone nodded and answered seriously. How could they not be serious? This was related to their life and death. If they were not careful, they would become the enemy's target. If they were not careful, they would become the monster's meal. They were all monstrous experts with a limitless future. Naturally, they did not want to die like this. Then, Lin Yi led 14 team members and left Tiny Spirit City. After passing through the yellow sandland, they separated. Lin Yi looked at the map remnant. He should be within 10,000 miles of Tiny Spirit City. At this moment, he was sure that the yellow sandland could only randomly teleport people 10,000 miles away. He was immediately relieved. As long as he was within 10,000 miles, the others would be able to sense him. If he was teleported thousands of miles away, he could only cry. Whoosh! A moment later. There was a piercing sound and a figure appeared in Lin Ye's line of sight. The figure quickly landed. He appeared in front of Lin Yi. Captain Zhang Xiaochu, the proud son of heaven of the Tianyang Empire's fourth-rank sect. His cultivation had reached the peak of the celestial realm and was only one step away from the Transcendent's golden body. When he was in the imperial palace, he knew that others did not think highly of him. Instead of following others in exchange for being a follower, he would rather follow a monstrous genius of a kingdom. Therefore, he immediately stood on Lin Ye's side. You're lucky. Lin Yi smiled. After the teleportation, I was not far from the yellow sandland. It seems that the other brothers still have a while. Zhang Xiaochu also felt that his luck was not bad. After leaving the yellow sandland, he was randomly teleported away. However, he found that he was not teleported far. He saw the location of the spirit-gathering crystal on the identity crystal at a glance. He knew that Lin Yi was not far from him. Chapter 279. As time went by, one by one they came to Lin Ye's place. The third prince had the worst luck. It took him 2 hours to get to Lin Ye's place. All 14 of them gathered together. After they gathered, they flew in the direction of the dark forest without hesitation. When they arrived at the dark forest, it was already dark. In the forest, except for the sounds of birds, beasts, insects, and ants, it was silent. In front of the dark forest, looking at the dark mountains, they were like fierce beasts that could devour heaven and earth. Zhang Xiaochu and the others were a little scared. Captain, the sky is dark now. Are we still going in? Xue Feng asked Lin Yi. Generally speaking, the night was the world of monsters. No matter how strong human experts were, they did not dare to set foot in the territory of monsters at night. The others also looked at Lin Yi. At night, monsters are the most numerous. For our current cultivation, there is no difference between day and night. Let's distribute it now. Lin Yi nodded and confirmed that they would enter the forest at night. There were 14 people in total. If there were too few monsters, it would be difficult to earn heaven list points. Therefore, they had to fight with monsters that lived in group. What the captain said makes sense. Captain, how do we distribute it? Zhang Xiaochu asked. With so many people hunting monsters together, there must be a distribution of benefits. This was everyone's ultimate goal. However, Lin Yi did not ask them. Now that Lin Yi proposed it himself, they naturally wanted to see how Lin Yi would distribute it. There are 14 of us, and 8 of us are in the celestial being realm. There are 5 Transcendence golden bodies, and I am the 5 Qi rising Sunday. When encountering monsters, it's best to act according to your strength. Choose monsters of the same level. Generally, don't cross levels unless you are 100% sure. We will have to fight for a long time, so no one can get hurt. Don't get entangled with monsters. Every blow must be a kill. Lin Yi said. All the experts present were unparalleled. It was not difficult to cross 1 or 2 levels. However, he did not want anyone present to get hurt. If one person got hurt, the others would be implicated. There was another problem. This was the first time that this team had fought together, so they didn't know each other's strength. They had to go through countless battles before they knew the true strength of the others. Only by understanding each other and being united would they be able to bring out their advantage. I'll deal with those of the same level. I'll skip 1 level. I'll skip 1 level. I'll deal with those of the same level. I'll deal with those of the same level. I'll skip 1 level. As soon as Lin Yi finished speaking, the third prince and the others immediately fell into deep thought. A moment later, everyone revealed their strength. Of course, everyone knew that each other had trump cards that they hadn't used yet. This was a life-saving measure, and they wouldn't use it unless it was absolutely necessary. It was better to be conservative. Although the heaven list points obtained were not much, at least it was safe. Alright then. I have a Saint Tier martial skill. It's a group attack. The attack range is within 1,000 meters. If we encounter a group of demonic beasts, I will make the first move. After I make my move, you guys follow me immediately. Because after I use that move, I will have to pay a certain price. For the time being, I can't have a powerful battle. Lin Yi said seriously. The others nodded in response. They were more curious about how powerful Lin Yi's move was. They couldn't help but look forward to it. There was another question, which was that they all wanted to know. Lin Yi's cultivation was the lowest, but his strength was terrifying. However, no one knew how terrifying it was. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 14 of them quickly flew into the air and flew towards the depths of the dark forest. Along the way, they directly killed the demonic beasts they encountered. Except for Lin Yi, the rest of the 14 people were all at the 9-to-1 realm and the Transcendent's golden body. With one move, they would definitely kill the demonic beast. 10 miles, 20 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles, an hour later, the group arrived at 1,000 miles in the dark forest. Here, there were groups of demonic beasts, and all of them were at the peak of the celestial being realm. The earth-shattering roars made people feel shocked and scared at the same time. Because these demonic beasts were all on the heaven list. Zhang Xiaochu, Lin Yang, Zhua Tianming, Xiao Yanqing on the left. Sun Wuyu, Zhuge Ling, Wang Zhe, Yang Yunchen on the right. Shuefeng, Zhao Shijiao, Qian Wexiu, Zhou Baiyu, Yi Tianxing in the middle. Lin Yi spoke and quickly arranged. For a time, the 13 of them formed a fan shape and rushed forward. The destructive aura crushed the space, and countless towering trees were broken under the destructive power. Roar! Roar! The destructive power alarmed the demonic beasts. Suddenly roars sounded. The demonic beasts within 100 miles roared at this moment. For a time, everyone felt as if they were in a monstrous wave. They were afraid, but at the same time, their blood was boiling. Rumble! Whoosh! Rumble! The destructive attack came crashing down in an overwhelming manner. Lin Yi's arrangement was determined according to each person's strength and position. Every time someone attacked, a demonic beast would fall. Even a demonic beast at the peak of the celestial being realm could not withstand a blow. Even if it could withstand a blow, the others' attacks would follow. Everyone wanted to get points on the heaven list, but they knew that their lives were more important. No one fought with the demonic beasts. They would leave in one blow. If they died, it would be their own fault. If they didn't die, the others would take their place. Lin Yi was floating in the air. He was watching the whole battle. As long as anyone was threatened, he would kill the demonic beast with lightning speed. After the last battle, he had more combat experience. Even if he encountered a second tribulation emperor-level demonic beast again, he could easily kill it. Time passed by minute by minute. After an hour of fighting, the 14 of them had obtained rich heavenlist point. However, at this moment, everyone's faces were full of horror. They quickly retreated, not daring to move forward. Their eyes were fixed on the place 1,000 meters away. Emperor-level demonic beasts. 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts. Captain, should we retreat? We're in trouble. We've encountered Emperor-level demonic beasts. Captain, can we retreat? Seeing the 3 tall giants, Zhang Xiaochu and the others showed a dignified look. Although they were young, they were also geniuses at the peak of the celestial being realm. At a glance, they could tell that the 3 giants were not human beings, but Emperor-level demonic beasts in human form. The unparalleled saint power crushed them, making them almost unable to raise their head. Lowly human beings. You killed 700 of my people. I'm going to eat you alive. The Emperor-level demonic beast in the middle. It spoke in human language, and its tone was extremely angry. Eat us alive? You have to have the ability to do that. Lin Yi waved his hand, motioning the 3rd prince and the others to retreat. But he walked forward. His momentum soared crazily. At this moment, 2,400 fields of gold and 1,100 fields of sword burst out. With every step he took, the destructive might he exuded grew a little stronger. In an instant, Lin Ye's power surpassed that of a celestial being and was almost on the same level as a half-saint. Chapter 280. More importantly, Lin Yi dared to face 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts alone. How strong was he? It was unimaginable. In particular, the 2,400 metal domains and 1,100 sword domains were simply beyond the scope of their imagination. At first, they thought that they were seeing things. How could a celestial realm, 5 Qi rising sun, have such a terrifying domain? 1,100 sword domains, 2,400 metal domains. Is he still a heavenly being? Even a second tribulation half-true saint wouldn't be so terrifying. All of our domains added together are not even a fraction of his. Comparisons are odious. If I were to tell others about this, no one would believe me. Facing countless demonic beasts, there were still 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts. At this moment, Zhang Xiaochu and the others were shocked by Lin Ye's strength. 19 provinces with 1 sword. 30,000 miles of sword qi. Lin Yi walked step by step until he was 200 meters away from the 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts. His body floated in the air, and the momentum on his body reached the peak. With a thought, the silver star sacred sword appeared in his hand. The sword cut through the void and slashed down. After the first sword, the second sword followed closely. The 2 swords were peerless, and everything in the world paled in comparison. In this part of the world, there was only a flash of cold light. The sword qi covered 30,000 miles. Wherever the sword qi passed, everything turned into nothingness. The cold light and sword qi enveloped the 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts at the same time. Roar, roar, roar! The 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts didn't expect that a human heavenly being would take the initiative to court death. However, they gradually found that something was wrong. By the time they reacted, it was already too late. They saw Lin Ye's destructive sword qi and sword qi crushing down. Wherever it passed, everything was annihilated. With a loud roar, the Emperor-level demonic beasts' unparalleled demonic power soared into the sky. The 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts wanted to resist Lin Ye's sword qi and sword qi. Kacha! A crisp sound rang in the air. After 3 sounds, it quieted down. The sword qi disappeared. The sword qi filled the night sky. Within 1,000 meters, the towering trees and rocks were all turned into dust. Boom! The 3 Emperor Realm demonic beasts collapsed one after another. There was no more life in them, and they were deader than dead. 3 Emperor Realm demonic beasts were comparable to Second Tribulation half-true saints, but they were killed by Lin Yi with a single slash of his sword. It was too shocking. He was too powerful. No one could accept this fact. Lin Yi was in the heavenly realm, and the difference in strength between him and a second tribulation half-true saint was more than 10 million li. Yet, 3 Emperor Realm demonic beasts with strength comparable to second tribulation half-true saints were killed by Lin Yi in an instant. No one would believe it. Xuefeng, Zhang Xiaochu and the others. His mouth was wide open and his eyeballs were about to fly out. He stared blankly at Lin Yi in the distance. Even now, he still hadn't recovered from the shock. This was really too shocking. After a long time, they all swallowed their saliva. He recovered from his shock. Captain, you're too strong. 3 Emperor-level demonic beasts were killed in one strike. Even a half-saint wouldn't be able to do this. Captain, you're really in the heavenly realm. Are you sure? If the top 10 monstrous geniuses saw this scene, they would know that their existence is a joke. It's a bit unrealistic. Are you sure it's not an illusion? After waking up from the shock, the third prince and the others exclaimed. He didn't look like a monstrous expert at all. Boom! Just when they were shocked by Lin Yi, a peerless sword light fell in front of them. 2 heavenly realm demonic beasts were cut in half by the sword light, saving them from death. Kill these beasts. We'll retreat. Lin Yi reminded Zhang Xiaochu and the others. Hearing Lin Ye's words, they quickly moved. The battle broke out again, and attacks covered the sky. This time, Lin Yi also joined the battle. Time passed by, second by second. The demonic beasts fell one by one. After 2 hours, there was not a single demonic beast left in a 10 li radius. Next, the 13 people hurriedly collected the demonic beast inner elixirs. Lin Yi took away the blood essence, hides, and inner elixirs of the 3 emperor-level demonic beasts. At the same time, he also cut a huge piece of beast meat. After doing all this, he quickly retreated with everyone. This place was a mess. It was as if thousands of troops and horses had fought. After retreating for 500 li, the group found a hidden and safe place to settle down. After a long period of continuous fighting, they had consumed a lot of energy. However, they also gained a lot. Their combat experience had been substantially improved. This kind of combat experience was something they had never imagined before. In other words, they were basically flowers in a greenhouse before. Now they had to experience life and death. How's your gain? Lin Yi asked with a smile on his face. Captain, my heaven list points increased by 209 points tonight. I have 2 points less than you. I have more than you too, 237 points. It seems that I should have the least, 171 points. I have at least 3 points less than you. Haha, I should have the most points, 310 points. Hearing Lin Yi ask them, they immediately reported their gains one by one. In the ruins of the Great Xia world, the gains were naturally based on the heaven list point. As for the treasures, they were not counted. If these demonic beast materials were taken to the outside world, they would definitely be exchanged for a terrifying amount of wealth. Captain, you have the most points. The 3 emperor-level demonic beasts alone gave you a lot of heaven list point. Captain, how many heaven list points did you increase? Xuefeng asked. However, they didn't know how many heaven list points Lin Yi had increased tonight. For a moment, they were curious and wanted to know how many heaven list points Lin Yi had obtained. 3 emperor-level demonic beasts, 2 of which were 1 tribulation emperor level. The other one was 2 tribulation emperor level. I increased my points by 381 points tonight. Lin Yi smiled. If there was a real battle, his heaven list points would definitely double. However, he didn't compete with Zhang Xiaochu and the others. He had to hold the line for them, so the heaven list points he obtained were naturally greatly reduced. Even so, he still had the most points on the heaven roll. The captain is indeed the captain. He has nearly 400 points. If the captain didn't have scruples about us, His heaven list points would definitely double. It's early in the morning now. Shall we go out and fight? After that, we'll come back and rest. That way we'll have more heaven list points. What do you think? Everyone knew. Lin Yi indeed didn't go all out. With his means that were comparable to a semi-sage, the heaven list points would be more than that if they really fought. In the end, the third prince suggested that they go out and fight again. After that, he looked at Lin Yi. The others also looked at Lin Yi. They would only go out if Lin Yi agreed. The backbone was Lin Yi. I'll guard you. You guys take a rest. We'll go out in 2 hours. Lin Yi pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. Zhang Xiaochu and the others were not children. They were famous peerless geniuses and experts. Naturally, they wouldn't act recklessly. They wouldn't risk their lives for the heaven list point. Anyway, fighting could help them gain experience. Chapter 281. It's 4 chapters today, so this chapter is an extra chapter. Making an advertisement for an author friend adds even more. Heavenly Court Horse, author. 4 elements, cultivates the 8 and 9 mystic arts, cultivates the Buddhist golden body, a very wonderful book. I recommend everyone to read it. Dark Forest, the World of Monsters. The powerhouses of Tiny Spirit City basically came here to hunt monsters to obtain heaven list point. Lin Ye's group of 14 people had already spent half a month here. In half a month, apart from fighting, everyone had become a battle maniac. Because the number of times they went out to fight every day was 4 or 5 times. As long as they were not injured, they would fight again after a little rest. Of course, the heaven list points also soared very quickly. Although everyone's heaven list points were different, it was roughly the same. As the number of battles increased, the cultivation strength also improved by leaps and bounds. The stronger the strength, the more heaven list points they obtained. Now, except for Lin Yi, the others had obtained close to 20,000 heaven list points. It was almost 1,000 heaven list points every day. At this rate, 40,000 heaven list points in a month's time was not a problem. On this day, the 14 people were targeted as soon as the battle ended. Really wearing out iron shoes in vain. It's all effortless. Zhao Shijiao, you dog slave, you escaped from my hands 3 years ago. You didn't expect to meet me here today, right? Surrender and be my slave, this is your duty. In the air, there were more than 30 figures breaking through the air. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yi and the others were surrounded, blocking their escape route. The leader was a young man in white. The young man held a folding fan in his hand, looking confident and elegant, full of the young master of an aristocratic family. However, on his body, he exuded a powerful Dharma. Celestial Realm Dharma golden body cultivation. The other powerhouses followed him as their leader. Seeing Zhao Shijiao, the young man in white drew back the corners of his mouth and said faintly. His entire person appeared calm and indifferent, not taking Lin Yi and the others seriously at all. In other words, in their view, Lin Yi and the others were lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Indeed, the 36 celestial realm geniuses were all from the Tianjin Empire. Naturally, they did not take Lin Yi and the others seriously. Moreover, more than half of the 36 people were Transcendence golden bodies. Only a few of them were in the heaven tier. Whether it was in terms of numbers or strength, Lin Yi and the others were all crushed. Nangong Qianyu, you bastard! Die a horrible death! What did you do to my sister? When Zhao Shijiao saw the young man in white, his breathing became heavy. His face was distorted and his eyes were bloodshot. It was as if he had seen his father's murderer. Lin Yi, the third prince, and the others all felt the change in Zhao Shijiao's state of mind. During this period of time, Zhao Shijiao had fought alongside them, so he had a better understanding of Zhao Shijiao's personality and character. Zhao Shijiao was the kind of person who was open and forthright. He didn't expect that the white-clothed young man would become like this. Your sister is very good. All day long, she begs me to take care of her. Nangong Qianyu chuckled. When the other powerhouses around him heard Nangong Qianyu's words, they all had evil smiles. When Zhao Shijiao heard Nangong Qianyu's words, he went berserk. A destructive aura erupted from his body, as if he wanted to tear Nangong Qianyu into pieces. Lin Yi, Xue Feng, and the others heard some stories from the conversation between the two. The white-clothed young man was called Nangong Qianyu. Zhao Shijiao's sister was defiled by Nangong Qianyu. No wonder Zhao Shijiao was so furious. Shijiao. Seeing that Zhao Shijiao was furious and wanted to go up to deal with Nangong Qianyu, Lin Yi hurriedly pulled Zhao Shijiao back. There were 36 people on the other side, and each of them was stronger than Zhao Shijiao. If he went alone, he would undoubtedly be courting death. He wouldn't be able to take revenge at all. Instead, he would lose his life. Captain, I'm going to kill him. Zhao Shijiao's expression was furious and his eyes were bloodshot. But when he saw Lin Yi pull him back, he still sobered up a little and said to Lin Yi, "Ha ha, dog slave, you think you can do it? Do you think I don't know what kind of trash you are? Even if you run to the Heavenly Sun Empire and join a 4th-grade sect, you're still a dog slave in front of me. I can crush you with one hand." Ha ha. Nangong Qianyu laughed loudly. To him, Zhao Shijiao wanting to kill him was the biggest joke in the world. Not to mention that he had more than 30 experts by his side, he could easily crush Zhao Shijiao alone. He really didn't know where Zhao Shijiao got his courage from. The other experts also laughed out loud as if they had heard the funniest joke. "Wake up. Tell me." Lin Ye's voice was cold as he patted Zhao Shijiao's shoulder. Zhao Shijiao couldn't help but shiver as he felt an ice-cold force, and his mind became much clearer. "Captain, I was originally from the Heavenly Gene Empire. My sister and I were orphans and depended on each other. We were taken in by the Nangong family and became Nangong Qianyu's study companion. My sister was his maid. The family head said that when we grew up, we would become members of the Nangong family and get rid of our status as study companions and maids. Nangong Qianyu stole the Nangong family's supreme treasure and was discovered. Nangong Qianyu made me take the blame and promised to let me and my sister leave the Nangong family. Who knew that not only did he not let my sister go, but he also sullied her?" Zhao Shijiao's face was full of anger. However, he still suppressed his anger and explained the cause and effect. It turned out that Nangong Qianyu stole the supreme treasure and made Zhao Shijiao take the blame in exchange for letting Zhao Shijiao and his sister leave. What no one expected was that Nangong Qianyu was greedy for Zhao Shijiao's sister's beauty and sullied her. Zhao Shijiao was forced to leave his hometown and came to the Heavenly Sun Empire to join a 4th-grade sect. The biggest wish in his heart was to become stronger so that he could save his sister. After saying that, he looked at Lin Yi. Now, only Lin Yi could help him. "Are you confident?" asked Lin Yi. There was a huge gap between Zhao Shijiao and Nangong Qianyu's cultivation and strength. If the two of them fought, it would be impossible for Zhao Shijiao to defeat Nangong Qianyu, let alone kill Nangong Qianyu. "I have no regrets even if I die 100 times," Zhao Shijiao said decisively. At this moment, seeing his enemy, his eyes turned red. As long as he could kill Nangong Qianyu, he would not hesitate to give up his life. "Trash! Ignorant! All of you, kneel down and kowtow 3 times and beg me to let you leave. This is your only chance. Otherwise you will end up like Zhao Shijiao, that dog of a slave." Nangong Qianyu did not stop Zhao Shijiao from speaking. To him, these things were very normal and he did not care. His gaze moved away from Zhao Shijiao and swept over Lin Yi and the others as he spoke arrogantly. He wanted Lin Yi and the others to kneel down and kowtow and beg for mercy. As for whether he would spare them or not, it was completely up to him. This was simply a game of cat and mouse. "Captain, Should we attack? Captain, we are ready. Captain, let's fight. Zhang Xiaochu, Shuifeng, Zhou Baiyu, Yang Yunchen, and the others. He completely ignored Nangong Qianyu's words, turning a deaf ear to them. It was as if he hadn't heard anything at all. Instead, he looked at Lin Yi and asked him if he should make a move. Chapter 282. So this is your captain? What a joke. Does the captain of the Tianyang Empire have no threshold at all? Nangong Qianyu's gaze fell on Lin Yi. This was because he realized that Zhao Shijiao and the others were all focused on Lin Yi from the bottom of their hearts. For a moment, Nangong Qianyu was puzzled and curious. Upon closer inspection, Lin Yi was only at the celestial realm. He could crush two people like him with one hand. He didn't expect him to be Zhao Shijiao's captain. You kneel down and beg for death. All of you, kneel down and beg for mercy. Lin Yi looked at Nangong Qianyu and the 30-odd monstrous experts around him with a calm expression. His tone was extremely calm, as if he was talking about a very ordinary thing. However, his words were extremely domineering. It was also very arrogant, making people unable to restrain their anger. However, to Zhang Xiaochu and the others, it was very pleasing to the ears, as if Lin Ye's words were the truth. This was because they knew Lin Ye's strength. He was qualified to speak like this. You are destined to live a life worse than death, said Qin Wentian. Yang Tian, I want him alive. Nangong Qianyu was so angry that he almost vomited blood when Lin Yi said to kneel down and beg for death. He seemed to have just mentioned the experts around Zhao Shijiao, but he didn't expect Lin Yi to return the favor with even more ruthless words. As he spoke, he gestured to a young celestial realm expert with a golden body. He wanted Yang Tian to deal with Lin Yi, and he wanted to capture Lin Yi alive. He wanted to torture Lin Yi until he begged for death. Yang Tian looked relaxed as he walked towards Lin Yi step by step. He didn't look like he was going to fight at all. He didn't treat Lin Yi as an expert at all, let alone Lin Yi as an opponent. As far as he was concerned, capturing Lin Yi was a piece of cake. You're courting death, Lin Yi said coldly. Yang Tian was only 100 meters away from him when his figure strangely disappeared. At the same time, an earth-shattering aura exploded out. Immediately after, a fist light smashed down on Yang Tian's head. Behind the fist light was Lin Ye's figure. At this time, Lin Yi was full of destructive aura. The space trembled and shattered in front of him. Yang Tian didn't take Lin Yi seriously at first. But he didn't expect that before he could reach Lin Yi, the threat of death, causing his mind trembled as his face was filled with despair. With a roar, his body's cultivation base. His entire body's attack. Boom. Lin Ye's unparalleled Heavenly Emperor fist carried the aura of a sovereign. With one punch, everything in the world paled in comparison. At this moment, Yang Tian, a celestial realm genius with a transcendence golden body, was blown up by a single punch. Lin Ye's figure flashed strangely and returned to his original position. From when he disappeared to when he came back, the whole process only took 3 breaths of time. However, in just a short span of 3 breaths, a peerless monstrous expert was smashed into smithereens by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's methods were truly unbelievable. Nangong Qianyu and the others were shocked and even terrified. They knew Yang Tian's strength very well. Even if they wanted to defeat Yang Tian, it wouldn't be an easy task. As for killing Yang Tian one-on-one, it was basically impossible. But Lin Yi directly killed Yang Tian in an instant. It was a powerful instant kill. The power of that fist light was simply unparalleled, as if an emperor had descended. 3 breaths of time. Either beg for mercy or die, Lin Yi said indifferently. He glanced coldly at the experts beside Nangong Qianyu. He wasn't bloodthirsty. If these experts could beg for mercy, he might spare their lives. If they didn't, he would leave all of them alive. However, Nangong Qianyu was destined not to leave alive today. Qianyu, finish them off. Attack together, let's end this quickly. Hearing Lin Ye's words, the faces of the geniuses beside Nangong Qianyu became extremely ugly. Everyone was afraid of death. However, as peerless geniuses, they had their own personalities. Even if they were to die, they wouldn't kneel. Moreover, they had more than 30 experts on their side, while the other side only had a dozen. The difference in numbers was nearly 3 times. Everyone on their side was very strong. No matter how strong Lin Yi was, he would only die in the face of the attacks of all the experts. Kill. Nangong Qianyu's cold voice sounded. He waved his hand and motioned for them to attack. All of a sudden, 35 monstrous cultivators charged over from all directions. A battle between monstrous celestial realm cultivators could destroy the heavens and the earth, let alone dozens of such monstrous cultivators attacking at the same time. For a moment, the space trembled and shattered. You guys have always wanted to see that move of mine. Now, the opportunity is here. Lin Yi watched the 35 geniuses charge over, their destructive attacks piercing through the space. Even a half-saint would have to retreat from such an attack. However, Lin Yi didn't panic at all, nor did he ask Zhang Xiaochu and the others to attack. Instead, he said something that almost made Nangong Qianyu and the others vomit blood. In his words, he wanted to fight with them alone. Azura Purgatory. Destroy everything, purgatory on earth. Lin Ye's figure floated strangely in the air, and he stretched out his hands. Suddenly, the entire space trembled and shattered, and an earth-shattering death aura soared into the sky. Seeing that the attacks of Nangong Qianyu and the others were about to destroy him, he crossed his arms, and a light that was dozens of meters in size appeared in front of him. The light spun and stirred the space. Then Lin Yi pushed and the space shattered. The light crushed towards Nangong Qianyu and the others. In an instant, the light collided with the attacks of Nangong Qianyu and the others. When the attacks of the 35 geniuses landed on the light, it was like a clay ox entering the sea, disappearing without a trace. And at this moment, the light turned blood-red. The entire world turned blood-red, as if it was purgatory on earth. Retreat. The third prince and the others felt the threat of death. Although Lin Yi was attacking Nangong Qianyu and the others, Lin Ye's move was too terrifying, making them feel a terrifying threat. If they didn't retreat, they would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. Suddenly, the 13 of them flashed and quickly retreated. Crash boom, just as the third prince and the others retreated. Purgatory on earth fiercely shrouded the sky above Nangong Qianyu and the others, and then it crushed down and landed on the ground. On the ground, a blood-red light scattered in all directions. Wherever the blood-red light passed, everything turned into nothingness. Ah! Screams resounded through the world. It was like purgatory on earth. With Lin Yi as the center, the area within a radius of 5 miles became purgatory. At this moment, only 11 of the 35 geniuses were left. The rest had all fallen. Even Nangong Qianyu had lost an arm. Chapter 283. Kill, don't leave a single one alive. Lin Ye's cold voice sounded. At the same time, his figure retreated rapidly. While he was retreating, Zhang Xiaochu and the others had already charged over. They engaged in a fierce battle with the powerhouses on Nangong Qianyu's side. Previously, the disparity in strength between the two sides was huge, but now, the strength of both sides was almost the same. Moreover, the people on Nangong Qianyu's side were all injured, and their strength was greatly reduced. In an instant, a tragic battle began. Zhao Shijiao seemed to have gone crazy as he fought with Nangong Qianyu without any regard for his life. It was completely a life for a life. It was shocking to see. Nangong Qianyu was also afraid. Not only was he afraid of Lin Yi, but he was also afraid of Zhao Shijiao's madness and disregard for his life. Rumble rumble, the battle was tragic. Only Lin Yi stood in the distance, watching more than 20 powerhouses fight crazily. At this moment, using the Saint rank martial technique, Azura Purgatory, consumed a lot of energy and had to recover quickly. At the same time, his divine sense enveloped the entire battlefield. He was ready to make a move at any time. Time passed by minute. 15 minutes. The battle of Zhang Xiaochu and the others ended, and only Zhao Shijiao was still fighting crazily. He was completely covered in blood. His entire body was covered in blood, and there was no place that was intact. On the opposite side, Nangong Qianyu was also in a sorry state. He didn't have the slightest bit of elegance. Without an arm, he wasn't much stronger than Zhao Shijiao. Moreover, the blood-colored light at the severed arm was corroding him, making it impossible for him to stop the bleeding. His injuries were getting more and more serious. Seeing that all the people around him had died and he was the only one left, while the 14 people on the other side were all fine, his heart sank into the abyss. There was also Lin Yi, who he feared the most. Lin Yi's terror had left a shadow in his heart. At this moment, even without Lin Yi, he couldn't be a match for more than a dozen monstrous powerhouses. In his heart, he had already thought of escaping. If he didn't escape, he would only vanish into thin air. Falling into the hands of a dog slave like Zhao Shijiao would really be a fate worse than death. Dog slave, even if all of you join forces, you can't do anything to me. When I return, I will definitely let your sister die of excitement. Nangong Qianyu attacked with all his might. After forcing Zhao Shijiao back, Nangong Qianyu made use of this opportunity to take out a jade strip. A trace of reluctance appeared on Nangong Qianyu's face. His gaze became resolute as he gripped the jade slip. The jade slip gave off an intense light and space rippled. A space-time teleportation gate appeared in front of Nangong Qianyu. Teleportation talisman. It's a pity that he escaped. Use the teleportation talisman. Seeing the jade slip in Nangong Qianyu's hand, the third prince and the others recognized it. It was a teleportation jade slip. Activating the jade slip would open a teleportation gate, allowing one to instantly teleport thousands of miles away. They could only watch as Nangong Qianyu fled. However, just as Zhang Xiaochu and the others were feeling regretful, Lin Ye's lips curled into a smile. Did you ask for my permission to leave? I've said it before. You can only beg for death. Lin Yi took a step forward and crossed 1,000 meters. Even so, Lin Yi was still several hundred meters away from Nangong Qianyu. However, Lin Yi did not continue forward. Instead, he stopped. Trash, you're so ignorant. You don't even recognize the teleportation jade slip? Nangong Qianyu looked at Lin Yi with disdain. He said indifferently. There was a trace of an excited smile on his face, because he liked it when others hated him but couldn't do anything to him. At this moment, he was just like that. After saying that, he was about to step into the teleportation gate. At this moment, he saw Lin Yi casually pointing at him. This finger was not powerful at all. It was just like pointing in a direction. However, it was this finger that made the smile on his face freeze. He was imprisoned in the air, motionless. This strange scene was seen by Zhang Xiaochu and the others. Everyone was stunned as if they had seen something strange. Nangong Qianyu was imprisoned. Lin Ye's figure disappeared and appeared in front of Nangong Qianyu at the speed of teleportation. He reached out and slapped Nangong Qianyu's face. He was imprisoned for just a breath. Nangong Qianyu recovered. However, by the time he recovered, it was already too late. He could only watch as a big slap landed on his face. He was stunned by this slap. His body slammed hard on the ground. A cloud of dust rose from the ground. The teleportation gate was directly shattered by Lin Ye's punch. Captain. Zhao Shijiao's attention had been on Nangong Qianyu. He didn't care about Lin Ye's shocking means, or rather, he didn't react, unlike Zhang Xiaochu and the others who were shocked and dazed. Seeing that Nangong Qianyu's teleportation was interrupted, he was extremely happy. His figure flashed and rushed up. He punched Nangong Qianyu's dantian, crippling Nangong Qianyu's cultivation and dantian. Holding Nangong Qianyu with one hand, he said to Lin Yi, "I'll leave him to you." Lin Yi knew that Zhao Shijiao couldn't wait to turn Nangong Qianyu into ashes at this moment. It was good to let him vent his anger, lest it left a bad side effect on his mental state in the future. He waved his hand and asked Zhao Shijiao to leave with Nangong Qianyu. Zhao Shijiao bowed deeply to Lin Yi, carried Nangong Qianyu, and flew into the sky. Xiaochu Tianming. The two of you follow. Inform us if anything happens. Lin Yi waved his hand, and a strong wind blew Zhang Xiaochu and the others away, waking them up with a start. He asked Zhang Xiaochu and Zhao Tianming to keep an eye on Zhao Shijiao to prevent any accident. Yes, Captain. Zhang Xiaochu and Zhao Tianming nodded. They quietly followed Zhao Shijiao not far away. After this period of understanding Lin Yi, Zhang Xiaochu and the others respected and admired Lin Yi from the bottom of their hearts. They also saw Lin Yi use Azura Hell and spatial imprisonment. These means were simply legendary. Next, Lin Yi and the others quickly collected the storage bags of Yang Tian and the others. After doing all this, Wang Zhe flipped his hand, and a long saber, emitting a fiery aura, appeared in his hand. With a slash, a trench appeared on the ground, and the raging flames turned the corpses of Yang Tian and the others into nothingness. Let's rest for a day first. Lin Yi spoke and flew into the sky. Wang Zhe and the others quickly followed and left this troublesome place. Within the vast mountains, a figure was running in a sorry state. He accidentally tripped over some vines, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Lai Tenyu. One of the three monsters of the Yuntian kingdom, Lai Tenyu, frenzied sword. He was covered in wounds and was exhausted. Ever since they entered the Great Xia World ruins, they had not seen him and thought that he had fallen. They did not expect him to appear in the dark forest, and it seemed like he was having a hard time. Damn it, the world spirit! I was just 1 point away from the heaven leaderboard, and it would not teleport me. When Lai Tenyu thought of the world spirit, he could not help but be enraged. His luck was extremely bad. After entering the Great Xia World ruins, he was teleported into the dark forest, and it was deep within the dark forest. The monsters he encountered were all peak heavenly human and emperor-class monsters. They did not even give him the chance to kill low-class monsters. After half a month, he had only earned less than 300 points on the heaven leaderboard. He could only rely on himself to carefully sneak into the outskirts of the dark forest. This journey could be said to be a life and death situation. Roar, a monster's roar could be heard. Chapter 284. The Celestial Realm was at the peak of the 5-Qi Rising Sun Realm. Among the geniuses who had entered the ruins of the Great Xia dynasty this time, he was definitely at the bottom. Facing an emperor-level monster, he would definitely die. Lai Tenyu walked out of the dark forest. He had encountered many emperor-level monsters, but he had cleverly avoided them. This time, there was no chance to avoid them, because the emperor-level monster had locked onto him and regarded him as a delicious meal. He was so desperate that he didn't even have the consciousness to escape or resist. In other words, after more than half a month of wandering on the edge of life and death, he was so tired that he didn't want to escape anymore. Death might be the best relief. The gigantic foot stomped down with destructive power. Just as the huge foot was about to step on his body, Lai Tianyu saw an icy sword light flash by from the corner of his eye. After the sword light flashed, the foot of the monster that was about to step on him became extremely slow. Finally, the foot lifted up. That was because the demonic emperor-level beast had fallen to the ground, and the sole of its foot had also been lifted up, allowing him to escape. However, there was a shocking discovery. Who was so powerful that a sword light could kill the emperor-level monster in seconds? What a familiar sword light! In Lai Tenyu's mind, the sword light was very familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. In his life, he had seen countless lights and sword lights, but only the cold sword light was unique. It's him! Lin Yi. A light flashed in his mind, and a figure formed in his mind. Yes, he had seen this sword light when he was in the kingdom of Cloud Sky. In Heaven City, he saw this sword light again. The owner of this sword light was Lin Yi. Yes, it was Lin Yi. He had seen this sword light twice before and was shocked by its power. He couldn't forget it even if he wanted to. Now that he saw this sword light again, he had mixed feelings. The sky is the quilt and the earth is the bed. Brother Lai, you are in a good mood. A familiar voice came to his ears. Lai Tenyu endured the pain in his body and sat up. What came into his sight was the figure of a young man. The young man looked at him with a smile. Behind the young man, several young experts landed and stood behind the young man. It really is you. Brother Lin, I can't thank you enough for saving my life. I will remember this. Lai Tenyu looked at the young man with a smile, as if he had just escaped death. Seeing a human expert, and an acquaintance at that, he knew that he had survived. Thinking about what he had been through in the past half a month, he almost burst into tears. Brother Lai, what happened to you? Let's rest first. Brother Qian, give me a hand. The third prince stepped forward and helped Lai Tenyu up. He shouted at Qian Wuxiu, who was not far away. The two of them supported Lai Tenyu. This was not a place to stay for long. He had to leave quickly. Lin Yi quickly collected the materials of the emperor-level demon beast. Then, he flew towards the sky with a group of people. A quarter of an hour later, he saw Zhang Xiaochu and Zhou Tianming. The two of them had already found a place to rest. At that moment, Zhao Shijiao was powerlessly lying on the ground. Nangong Qinyu had long since lost his human form. However, he was unable to die. Right now, his greatest desire was to die. Brother Lai, welcome back to the team. Lin Yi was the first to speak to Lai Tenyu. Lai Tenyu was originally in their team. However, after entering the Great Xia World ruins, he was randomly teleported into the Dark Forest. He did not even go to Wiling City. There were many times when he almost died in the hands of demon beasts. Thank you. Lai Tenyu was extremely grateful. Then, he greeted the experts present one by one. His entire body was covered with injuries, and he was exhausted. He was extremely weak, so he needed to rest first. Lin Yi and the others did not disturb him, allowing him to recover on his own. In the dark forest, danger was everywhere. His life could be at risk at any time. Therefore, he had to keep himself in peak condition at all times. Taking advantage of the opportunity to rest, they did not waste any time. One by one, they sat cross-legged and took out the pills or treasures that they had prepared to let themselves recover as much as possible. A day passed. Zhao Shijiao was already awake and knew that his sister was still in the Nangong family. After leaving the Great Xia World ruins, he had to rescue his sister. Now, the most important thing was to strengthen himself. He would not let go of any opportunity to become stronger. Lai Tenyu. Although his injuries had not fully recovered, he was much more energetic. This was the most peaceful day in more than half a month. He did not have to worry about becoming a meal for demon beasts and could sleep peacefully. Leader, it's in the depths of the dark forest. There's a strange altar. When I entered here, I landed on the altar. The light on the altar made countless demon beasts fearful. It was this altar that allowed me to survive. It's a pity that I don't have many runes. I don't know what the altar is. However, I feel that there's more to it than meets the eye. Lai Tenyu came in front of Lin Yi and pondered for a moment. He told Lin Yi what he had discovered. It turned out that he was randomly separated when he entered the Great Xia World ruins and was teleported to the depths of the dark forest. The place where he landed was coincidentally a huge altar. The altar had a diameter of 100 meters. The mystical runes shone with a mystical light. Around the altar there were countless powerful Emperor-level demon beasts. However, these demon beasts did not dare to approach the altar. If it was not for the altar, he would have become a meal for the Emperor-level demon beasts. He stayed on the altar for 3 days. He knew that if he did not leave, he would have to stay here forever. In the end, he could only take the risk. He flew up and ran for his life. He fell into a quagmire and hid his aura. Only then did he escape from the demon beast. From here to the altar. How far is it? Lin Yi looked at Lai Tenyu. His eyes were filled with powerful spiritual will. He scanned Lai Tenyu and knew that Lai Tenyu was not lying. He could not help but be interested in the altar. In the Great Xia World ruins, Tiny Spirit City was not the goal. The purpose of coming here was to find opportunities and resources. If there was really a secret realm behind the altar, there might be opportunities. Less than 20,000 miles. But there are too many Emperor-level demon beasts on the way. Lai Tenyu walked out from the depth. He was careful along the way, not daring to disturb the demon beasts. He did not even dare to provoke the diviner-level demon beasts. He was worried that the Emperor-level demon beasts would notice him. Therefore, his speed was very slow. Under normal circumstances, he could fly for 20,000 miles in half a day. However, it took him more than half a month. That place is already the deepest part. There are groups of Emperor-level demon beasts in that place. Even Emperor-level demon beasts might appear. With our current cultivation and strength, we will die if we go there. Or rather, we will be eaten alive by the demon beasts before we reach the altar. Lin Yi made a rough estimation. 20,000 miles into the dark forest was the deepest part. In that place, there were very few diviner-level demon beasts. At most, there were Emperor-level demon beasts. There might even be Emperor-level demon beasts. Even for him, a slightly stronger Emperor-level demon beast could eat him, let alone an Emperor-level demon beast. Chapter 285. That's true. When we become half-sages, we might have a chance. Lai Tenyu nodded. He had experienced it firsthand and knew how terrifying the depths were. Now, he would rather die than enter the depths of the dark forest. That place had left an unforgettable mark on him. Unless he became a half-sage or even stronger, he might dare to go there. It shouldn't be difficult to become a half-sage in 3 years. When the time comes, we'll go and take a look. You can't fight now, right? Just rest here for 2 days. You can fight with us when you've recovered. Lin Yi was very curious about the altar. However, his cultivation base was too low and he didn't have the strength to go there. For a moment, his desire for cultivation base was very strong. Heaven list points were heaven list point. To obtain more heaven list points, then go to the Tower of Time to cultivate and treasure Sky Pagoda to exchange for precious equipment and treasures. Alright, I won't join for the next 2 days. Lai Tenyu nodded. He indeed didn't have any combat strength. If he went, he would only be a burden to Lin Yi and the rest. He was a monstrous expert with monstrous talent. Naturally, he could tell that the strength of his team members had improved greatly. Compared to when they were in Sky City, they were a level stronger. Needless to say, they were all trained in battles. Seeing this, he was envious. Next, Lin Yi led the others to hunt monsters and earn heaven list point. At the same time, he told them about the altar in the depths of the dark forest and asked them to increase their cultivation base as soon as possible. If their cultivation base was too low, they wouldn't be able to go. Hearing Lin Ye's words, they were all excited. One by one, they fought crazily to increase their combat strength and earn heaven list points to increase their cultivation base. Day after day passed. Unknowingly, it was the end of the month. There was only one day to the end of the month. Lin Yi and the rest did not hunt any more demonic beasts. Instead, they quickly returned to the tiny spirit city. This was because they did not go to the tiny spirit tower. They wanted to pass 1 or 2 levels of the tiny spirit tower so that their heaven ranking points would increase. During this 1 month, other than Lin Yi, Qian Wuxiu had the most heaven list points with 43,000 points. The one with the lowest points on the heaven list was Xiao Yanqing, with 39,000 points. Naturally, Lai Tenyu had only participated in the battle for 10 days, and his heaven list points were less than 10,000. Haha, this month's harvest is not small. We should be able to enter the world's heaven ranking. Pretentious, you're the prettiest. Last month, Mu Tianxing, who was ranked in the top 300 of the heaven ranking, had a heaven ranking points of 20,000. Mo Luojian, who was ranked 200, had a heaven ranking points of 40,000. In other words, our ranking is already within the top 1,000. However, the rankings of the new members of the 2 empires and the 8 alien races will definitely change. With Captain's heaven ranking, he should be able to enter the top 100. In front of Tiny Spirit City, Lin Yi returned with Zhang Xiaochu and the others. Along the way, he saw many monstrous experts returning from their adventures. Some returned with a full load. Some were covered in wounds. There were even those who would never return. Soon, the group arrived at the world's heaven ranking. Looking at the towering world's heaven ranking, the names of countless monstrous experts were shining on it. Each name represented a powerful strength and monstrous talent. Because, from this month onwards, there would only be 1,000 names on the world's heaven ranking. Those who did not enter the top 1,000 would not be able to enter the ranking. At this moment, Zhang Xiaochu and the others were looking forward to finding their names on the world's heaven ranking. They hoped to leave their names on the heaven ranking. This would not only bring glory to the great Xia world ruins, but also give them unexpected benefit. The higher the ranking on the world's heaven ranking, the more rewards and benefits they would receive. Soon, Lin Yi and the others found their names on the world's heaven ranking. The highest ranking was naturally Lin Yi. Lin Yi, rank 99, heaven ranking points, 93,003. The second was Qian Wexiu. Qian Wexiu, rank 271, heaven ranking points, 43,000. The one with the lowest rank was Xiao Yanqing. Xiao Yanqing, rank 319, heaven ranking points, 39,000. The others were all within the top 300. Of course, this ranking was not the final ranking, because many experts did not add amplitude. However, they had never been to the tiny spirit tower, so they naturally did not have amplitude. Now, they wanted to go to the tiny spirit tower the most and try to pass 1 or 2 floors. This way, their heaven ranking points would increase by 10% or 20%. Actually, what made Lin Yi curious was, in front of his ranking, there were 3 monstrous experts from the Heavenly Jin Empire, 3 from the Heavenly Sun Empire, 2 from the 8 great alien races, and Nangong Xie, who shocked him even more. Because Nangong Xie was ranked 18th, her heaven ranking points had reached 310,000. If it was last month, her heaven ranking points would have surpassed the 6th place and approached the 5th place. He, Zhang Xiaochu, and the others had risked their lives for a month without rest. However, they only had a few tens of thousands of heaven ranking points, which was more than 10 times more than the other monstrous experts. However, compared to Nangong Xie, there was a huge difference. He really could not imagine how Nangong Xie did it. In this month, in the world's heaven ranking, other than a few experts from the 2 empires and the 8 great alien races, the other rankings did not change much. However, the heaven ranking points had increased as a whole. The first place had 680,000 last month. However, it had reached 930,000 this month. Lin Ye's expression did not change as he entered the tiny spirit city with the others. "Captain, when are you going to the tiny spirit tower? Why don't we go together?" Xiao Yanqing asked. It was the last day, so they could not miss it. Moreover, each person only had 3 chances to enter the tiny spirit tower every month. In the afternoon. "Let's take a break first and conserve our energy." In the afternoon, challenge the tiny spirit tower in your peak condition and strive to obtain a good result. Otherwise, your poor condition will affect the challenge and leave behind regret. Lin Yi paused for a moment. He then said, although he did not order Zhang Xiaochu and the others, no one had any objections to his words. In their opinion, what Lin Yi said was reasonable. More importantly, Lin Yi was the strongest, so strong that they could only look up to him. They did not even have the thought of chasing after him. They respected and admired such a person from the bottom of their hearts. "All right, let's meet at the tiny spirit tower in the afternoon. Then I'll go back and sleep first. I haven't rested for a month, so tired." Then, the group separated. They returned to their own castles to rest. Lin Yi had just separated from the others when he met a familiar person. Seeing this person, his heartbeat uncontrollably accelerated. Senior sister. This familiar person was naturally his senior sister in the Heavenly Sea sect, Nangong Xie. The two could not be said to be familiar with each other, but they could not be said to be strangers either. They had only met once in the Heavenly Sea sect. The first impression she gave him was that she was a peerless beauty, like a goddess of the 9 heavens. Or rather, even a goddess of the 9 heavens could not be compared to her. That kind of temperament made people look up to her and did not dare to have the slightest thoughts about her. Now, Nangong Xie was even more beautiful. Chapter 286. Junior Brother. Nangong Xie seemed to have been waiting for Lin Yi. Hearing Lin Ye's call, she turned around, revealing her peerlessly beautiful face to Lin Yi. The two were 100 meters apart, and a faint fragrance drifted into Lin Ye's nose. Peerlessly beautiful was no longer enough to describe her temperament. Of all the women Lin Yi had seen, the one with the best temperament was undoubtedly Biluo, followed by Nangong Xie, and then Silent Soul. In fact, each of them had their own merits, and there was no clear winner. Only their temperaments were different. For example, the sisters Luo Bingyue and Luo Xing were not inferior to Biluo and the others in terms of beauty, but their temperament was lacking. If one wanted to give a score, if 10 points was the maximum score, Biluo 10 points, Nangong Xie 10 points, Silent Soul 10 points, Luo Bingyue 9 points, Luo Xing 9 points, Luo Ling 8 points, Murong Lingling 7 points. Long time no see. I didn't expect to see you again in the ruins of the Grand Xiao world. Lin Yi operated his divine sense, and his mind calmed down a bit. As he spoke, he walked towards Nangong Xie. He stopped in front of Nangong Xie. The two were separated by 3 meters, and this distance was polite but not too distant. We met outside the Grand Xiao world." Hearing Lin Ye's words, Nangong Xie couldn't help but giggle. They had already met outside the ruins of the Grand Xiao world, but they didn't talk. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel awkward. Nangong Xie's words weren't wrong, because they had indeed met outside the ruins of the Grand Xiao world. In his opinion, that situation couldn't be considered as meeting. "Junior brother, I'm afraid you're in trouble." Seeing Lin Ye's appearance, Nangong Xie almost laughed out loud. His junior brother was powerful and talented, but he did not expect him to be so thin-skinned. He had always been curious about the identity of his junior brother. His original body had not hesitated to cross over into this world in order to confirm his junior brother's identity. However, she pretended not to know. He didn't want to inquire about Lin Ye's background and identity. "What trouble?" Lin Yi asked Nangong Xie seriously. Since even senior sister said that it was troublesome, then it was definitely not simple. Nangong Qinyu. Nangong Xie opened her mouth and spoke a name. This person had been killed by Lin Ye's group. To be more precise, he had been killed by Zhao Shijiao. Now that Nangong Xie had brought it up, Lin Yi was puzzled. A trace of doubt arose in his heart. No one else knew that they had killed Nangong Qinyu. With 36 people killed, it was impossible for the news to spread. However, his senior sister knew about it. Slow a thought flashed through Lin Ye's mind. He seemed to have thought of something. However, it had disappeared in a flash, which made him feel like he was going crazy. He slowly tried to recall what had happened. He finally found it. Nangong Qinyu and Nangong Xie were both surnamed Nangong. Moreover, both of them were heaven-defying monsters. Could it be that the two of them were related? Senior sister. Are you from the Nangong family of the Tianjin Empire? Lin Yi didn't deny it. He asked if Nangong Xie was from the Nangong family of the Tianjin Empire. If Nangong Xie was from the Nangong family, then she must be related to Nangong Qinyu. Nangong Qinyu is my cousin. Nangong Xie's voice was like the sound of nature. She spoke of her relationship with Nangong Qinyu. She also admitted that she was from the Nangong family of the Tianjin Empire. Senior sister, although Nangong Qinyu didn't die in my hands. However, his death is definitely related to me. Lin Yi pondered for a moment and said, Nangong Qinyu was killed by Zhao Shijiao, but the one who really caused Nangong Qinyu's death was Lin Yi. Zhao Shijiao alone couldn't kill Nangong Qinyu. Now, his heart sank to the bottom of the valley. He never thought that the first person he killed in the world of Grand Xia was actually his senior sister's cousin. It made him feel as if the heavens were playing a joke on him. You are my junior brother. He is my cousin. I won't interfere in your matters. The family wants to bring you back to the Nangong family. The reason why we know that Nangong Qinyu was killed by you is that when he used the teleportation jade talisman, the family elders discovered it and also discovered you. Nangong Xie's tone was calm and understated. It completely exceeded Lin Ye's expectations. In his mind, this senior sister of his would definitely deal with him to avenge her cousin. Senior sister, what about you? Are you bringing me back to the Nangong family? Lin Yi looked at the incomparably beautiful Nangong Xie and asked. He wanted to know what his senior sister was thinking. If she really wanted to bring him back to the Nangong family, he could only resist. If he went to the Nangong family, he would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Nangong family, Senior sister won't harm you. You just need to focus on your cultivation. Otherwise, you'll be left far behind by me. Nangong Xie smiled. This smile made all flowers pale in comparison. One smile could topple a city. Another smile could topple a country. This made Lin Ye's heart beat faster. Senior sister, why did you go to a foreign race? Lin Yi knew that Nangong Xie didn't want to linger on the matter of Nangong Qinyu. He also wanted to change the topic. What made him feel a bit relieved was that at least his senior sister wouldn't deal with him. Although he didn't have any relationship with Nangong Xie and wasn't very familiar with her. But, in general, the two of them were from the same sect. He didn't want to be enemies with Nangong Xie. Moreover, Nangong Xie gave him a lot of mysteries. He couldn't see through her. My mother is from the Xuanzi clan. Naturally, I can also be considered a foreign race. It just so happened that the Xuanzi clan had an extra spot, so I came as a replacement. Nangong Xie didn't hesitate and told him the reason why she was in a foreign race. There was nothing wrong with her words. Even if Lin Yi wanted to ask about other things, he couldn't because Nangong Xie had the bloodline of a foreign race. Moreover, the two of them weren't very familiar with each other. Senior sister's strength is too strong. You've reached the 18th place on the heaven list. If this continues, Rulin you won't be your match. Lin Yi was curious about Nangong Xie's strength. In the Heavenly Sea sect, Nangong Xie was the eldest senior sister. Her talent and strength were the benchmark of the younger generation. However, he never expected that Nangong Xie would become so powerful after a few years. It had to be said that he was very confident in his cultivation speed and strength improvement speed. Very few people could surpass him. Now, he discovered that Nangong Xie was even more terrifying than him. She was so terrifying that he felt like he couldn't catch up. It's just the heaven list. Nangong Xie shook her head and said indifferently. In her eyes, she didn't care about the heaven list at all. Lin Yi naturally didn't know that her strength had already surpassed his imagination. Senior sister, I've arrived. He walked in front of his castle. Lin Yi stopped and said to Nangong Xie. He didn't have any intention of inviting Nangong Xie in. I've arrived as well. Goodbye. A crafty smile appeared on Nangong Xie's beautiful face as she pointed at a nearby castle. This castle was separated from Lin Ye's castle by a bluestone street. She lived right across from Lin Yi. Chapter 287. The Tiny Spirit Tower was one of the 3 treasured lands in Tiny Spirit City. Compared to the Tower of Time, it was the most lively. There were 3 chances every month. On the last day of the month, countless experts would come here to challenge the Tiny Spirit Tower to increase their amplitude. Xiaochu, what happened? Why did you fail on the first floor? Not far from the Tiny Spirit Tower, there were hundreds and thousands of experts gathered. Zhang Xiaochu, Zhou Tianming, and the rest were all here. Moreover, Zhang Xiaochu had already challenged the Tiny Spirit Tower. What shocked and puzzled everyone was that Zhang Xiaochu had failed on the first floor. They couldn't believe it. In their opinion, even if he couldn't pass the 3rd or 4th floor, he should at least pass the first floor. However, Zhang Xiaochu had failed on the first floor. Do you think that there is no threshold in Tiny Spirit City? How ignorant and shameful! A demon-like expert from the Tianyang Empire said with disdain. From the beginning to the end, they didn't take Zhang Xiaochu and the rest seriously. It was as if being listed as a demon-like expert with Zhang Xiaochu and the rest was an insult to them. The Gongsun family was one of the top 10 third-grade families in the Tianyang Empire. Gongsun Yu was the number 1 demon-like talent in this generation of the Gongsun family. Like Lin Yi, he was the leader of one of the 10 small teams. However, the number of demon-like experts following him was twice as many as Lin Yi. Gongsun Yu, I didn't take you for a mute if you don't speak. You aren't any better. The 3rd prince said coldly. He was the prince of the Cloudy Sky Kingdom. The demon-like experts of the Tianyang Empire didn't think highly of him. After coming to the Great Xia World ruins, everyone was on the same starting line. Naturally, he didn't think highly of Gongsun Yu. He thought in his heart, they were both demon-like talents. Why was the difference so huge? Lin Yi kept a low profile, but his strength was terrifying to the extreme. Although Gongsun Yu was strong, he was very arrogant. However, compared to Lin Yi, the difference in strength was huge. There is no food in the trough. You aren't that far off. The demon-like experts of the Tianyang Empire instantly laughed when they saw the demon-like experts of the Tianyang Empire. After saying that, he couldn't help but laugh. The experts who followed him were also laughing heartily. Brother Sun, don't lower yourself to their level. It's your turn. Xiao Yanqing tugged at the 3rd prince, telling him not to bicker with others. Because it was now the 3rd prince's turn to challenge the Tiny Spirit Tower. The 3rd prince nodded and glared fiercely at Gongsun Yu before walking towards the entrance of the Tiny Spirit Tower. Time passed by, second by second. The 3rd prince's challenge was over. He had successfully defeated the 1st level and lost on the 2nd level. Amplitude value 1 1. Behind them, Xiao Yanqing and the others continued to challenge. 14 people, 9 of them failed. Only 5 people managed to pass the first floor. Only now did everyone realize how terrifying the tiny spirit tower was. It was too difficult to pass the first floor. The first level was already so terrifying. Then, what about the second and third levels? The tiny spirit pagoda had a total of 33 levels. It was truly unimaginable. Brother Gongsun, it's your turn. After Zhang Xiaochu and the others finished their challenge, it was Gongsun Yu's turn. When Gongsun Yu passed by Zhang Xiaochu and the others, a disdainful smile appeared on his face. It was as if he was certain that he would succeed. Then, he walked into the tiny spirit tower. 10 breaths later, the crystal steel outside the tiny spirit tower flashed with a ray of light. Gongsun Yu passed the first floor. The crystal steel showed that Gongsun Yu had succeeded in his challenge. 20 breaths later, the crystal steel flashed with light again. Gongsun Yu passed the second floor. 30 breaths later, Gongsun Yu walked out of the tiny spirit tower with a calm expression. However, when he looked at Zhang Xiaochu and the others, he raised his head arrogantly. It was as if he was number 1 in the world. Indeed, it was rare for someone to pass the second floor of the tiny spirit tower on their first try. The challenge continued. The monstrous experts walked out of the tiny spirit tower one after another. Out of the 100 people, 70 of them failed. The rest of them passed the first floor. Only 2 or 3 reached the second floor. At this moment, all the experts were dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with amazement. They saw a peerless beauty appear in the square of the tiny spirit tower. The woman looked to be 21 or 22 years old. She was wearing a blue dress. Her silky hair hung down to her waist. Her beautiful face was devastatingly beautiful. Her white skin was like a warm jade. She was like a goddess that had cleansed the dust of the 9 heavens. Her aura was otherworldly, and her cold temperament kept people away. Her delicate feet were 3 feet above the ground as she walked. However, there was a blood-red lotus imprint between her eyebrows. It made her look even more bewitching. Bewitching, holy, and ice-cold. All the experts were shocked when they saw this woman. They never thought that there would be such a perfect woman in this world. They thought that their eyes were playing tricks on them. This woman should only exist in the heavens. How many times would one see her in the mortal world? Fairy Sia. Fairy Sia of the Xuanzi clan. Fairy Sia. After a long time, countless monstrous experts woke up from their shock. They recognized this woman's identity and origin. All the experts' faces were filled with respect and admiration. Her beauty made all the men in the world go crazy for her. Nangong Xia didn't stop. She directly walked into the tiny spirit tower and disappeared from the experts' sight. At this moment, all the monstrous experts looked at the crystal steel curiously. They all wanted to know if Nangong Xia could pass the tiny spirit tower. In just 5 breaths, the crystal steel flickered with a dazzling radiance. Nangong Xia, first floor, pass. 10 breaths later, the crystal steel flickered with a dazzling radiance again. Nangong Xia, second floor, pass. 15 breaths later, the crystal steel flickered with a dazzling radiance again. The radiance was even more dazzling than before. All the experts present had splendid expressions. They all knew that Nangong Xia had passed the 3rd floor. Moreover, she only needed 15 breaths to pass the 3rd floor. As expected, Nangong Xia, 3rd floor, pass. The monstrous experts who thought that they were the number 1 expert in the world now had extremely unsightly expressions after passing the 2nd floor. They realized that they didn't have the slightest bit of ability in front of Nangong Xia. Whether it was talent or strength, Nangong Xia crushed them. 15 minutes later, Nangong Xia, 7th floor, pass. 15 minutes later, Nangong Xia, 12th floor, pass. After passing the 12th floor, Nangong Xia walked out of the tiny spirit tower. Her amplitude value had reached 2. 2, in other words, her current heaven ranking value multiplied by her amplitude value was her final heaven ranking value. Congratulations, Fairy Sia! Congratulations, Fairy Sia! Seeing Nangong Sia come out, countless experts greeted and congratulated Nangong Sia. One must know that the number 1 expert of the heaven ranking, Ruolanyu, only had an amplitude value of 1.7. But Nangong Sia's first attempt at the tiny spirit tower had already reached 2. What kind of concept was that? Furthermore, Nangong Sia was currently ranked 18th on the heaven ranking. On the crystal stele, there were 10 names. Nangong Sia was ranked first. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.